Nepal's newly elected House of Representatives convenes first session. Home Minister tables 3 ordinances as lawmakers promise reform. Nepal's National Assembly to elect its vice chairperson on April 6. RSP nominates DP Aryal as candidate of Speaker of the House of Representatives. SEE exam kicks off. Center-based grading system introduced. Results expected within a month. Tehran warns of broader attacks after Trump says US will hit Iran extremely hard in coming weeks. Artemis 2 crew rockets toward Moon. NASA embarks on first manned moon mission in over 50 years. And Tribhuvan Army club cruises to comfortable win in the ongoing PM's Cup, so the Pashupatinath secures a narrow win. Hello there, I'm Smituki Singh Thamang and this is NTV World Primetime News. We're coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Elsewhere, it's 13:15 in London, 22:15 in Tokyo, and just after midnight in Sydney. The details now. The first session of Nepal's House of Representatives HOR following the March 5 elections was held today at the under-construction Federal Parliament building in Singapore. Senior-most member Arjun Narsingh Casey presided over the session. Casey read letters from the President summoning the parliamentary session and regarding the appointment of the Prime Minister and a formation of the Council of Ministers. The session was attended by Prime Minister Balendra Shah, members of the Council of Ministers, former PM and NCP coordinator Pushpakamal Dahal, Rashtriya Swatantra Party President Rabi Lamitani, Shram Sanskriti Party Chair Harkar Raj Rai, Senior Nepali Congress and CPNUML leaders and other newly elected lawmakers. The 275-member HOR comprises 182 from RSP, 38 from Nepali Congress, 28 from CPN-UML, 17 from NCP, 7 from Shram Sanskriti Party, 5 from Rashtriya Prajatantra Party and 1 independent member. In today's session, Home Minister Sudan Gurung presented 3 ordinances. The voter list First Amendment Ordinance 2082 BS, the House of Representatives Members Election First Amendment Ordinance 2082 BS, and the Nepal Special Service Second Amendment Ordinance 2082 BS. The next HOR meeting has been scheduled for Sunday. The first session of the Federal Parliament began today with Arjun Narsingh Casey presiding as acting Speaker. It opened with the observance of a moment of silence for Gen Z protest martyrs, followed by party leaders' addresses. While opposition reactions were mixed, leaders appeared optimistic about delivering effective governance. Sabika Shrestha brings a report.
We are outside the multipurpose hall of the Federal Parliament building, which is under construction inside Singapore. Today, the first session of Federal Parliament is set to begin following the House of Representatives election held on March 5. Everyone is excited for the first session of Federal Parliament. The decisions, the policies, whatever is coming ahead, people are eagerly waiting for this. The session held at the multipurpose hall of the under-construction Federal Parliament building commenced with a moment of silence in tribute to martyrs, including those who lost their lives during the recent Gen Z protest movement. The session was presided over by Arjun Narsingh Casey, the senior-most lawmaker acting as a Speaker of the House of Representatives for today's proceedings. Following the tribute, party leaders addressed the House outlining their priorities and expectations from the new Parliament. Leaders across the political spectrum were seen enthusiastic and optimistic, expressing commitment to deliver more effective governance and accelerated legislative work. However, the session also witnessed the mixed reactions from opposition parties, with some raising concerns over procedural clarity and the government's immediate agenda, while others stressed the need for stronger accountability mechanisms from the outset. Speaking on today's business plans, UML leader Kshitiz Thebe emphasized the importance of a smooth and structured start to parliamentary proceedings, highlighting institutional stability and cooperation among parties as key priorities. Meanwhile, Rashtriya Swatantra Party's Ranju Darsana said the focus would be on setting a clear direction for governance, with an emphasis on faster decision-making and tangible outcomes through upcoming sittings. The first session has set the tone for the new parliament with high public expectations for decisive policy making, improved service delivery and meaningful political consensus in the days ahead. All eyes are now on the House as the first federal parliament session gets underway, with high expectation for decisive policies and good governance ahead. Sabika Shrestha with camera person Samir Thapa reporting for NTV World.
Also, the 20th session of the National Assembly, the upper house of the Federal Parliament, convened from today. In today's meeting, Chairperson Narayan Prasad Dahal read out the letter received from President Ramchandra Paudel regarding summoning of the session. Meanwhile, the meeting decided to hold election for the Vice Chairperson on April 6. Chair Dahal announced that the election will be conducted in accordance with Rule 8 of the National Assembly Regulations 2018. Dahal also directed Padma Prasad Pandey, Secretary General of the Federal Parliament, to publish the official election schedule. In addition, elections for vacant chairperson positions in various thematic committees of the National Assembly have been set for April 7. Meanwhile, the next meeting of the National Assembly is scheduled to take place in April. Rashtriya Swatantra Party RSP has decided to nominate Deputy Chairperson DP Aryal as the Speaker of Nepal's House of Representatives. Party spokesperson Manish Jha said the party's parliamentary meeting today unanimously approved the proposal presented by RSP President Ravi Lamichhane. Aryal was elected as a lawmaker from Kathmandu constituency number 9. Although the RSP holds a majority, the party's parliamentary group decided to nominate a candidate following the proper procedure. The election of House Speaker election has been scheduled for Sunday, April 5. The next meeting of the House of Representatives is also scheduled for 11 a.m. on the same day. We're going for a short break here. More news coming up. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World and this is the primetime news. Back to the national front. Nepal's National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Authority is set to prepare the National Action Plan 2083 for monsoon-related preparedness and response. For this, an 18-member task force has been formed under the convenership of Joint Secretary Roshni Kumari Shrestha, head of the authority Policy, Planning and Monitoring Division. The task force includes representatives from federal ministries, departments and authorities related to disaster, as well as from all 3 security agencies. A plan is being formulated to ensure that all relevant agencies, including the federal, provincial, local governments, security bodies and partner organizations, engage in preparedness and response in a planned manner to effectively face potential monsoon-related disasters and minimize loss of life and property. Home Minister Sudhan Gurung had instructed the authority to develop timely response plans and strengthen disaster management efficiently during a recently held program at the authority. The Secondary Education Examination SEE has kicked off from today across 1,966 examination centers across Nepal. According to the National Examination Board (NEB), a total of 512,421 students are appearing for the examination. Among them, girls outnumber the boys in the test with 257,613 female students compared to 54,801 male students and 7 others. The board has decided to grade secondary education examination SEE answer sheets at respective examination centers across the country. Secretary at the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, Churamani Paudel, said the board has made arrangements to ensure that marking for each subject is completed at the center within 3 days of the exam's conclusion. In previous years, answer sheets were collected and sent to different districts or provinces for marking to maintain anonymity, a process that typically took more than 2.5 months. Following a directive from Education Minister Sashmit Pokhrel to publish results within a month, the board has adopted center-based grading. Officials said the goal is to publish results within a month, which would allow SEE results to be released by mid-May. In addition, 23 students from every school in Japan are sitting the examinations. The SEE exams will run till April 12. Countries around the globe marked World Autism Awareness Day today, promoting understanding, inclusion and support for individuals with autism. Established by the United Nations in 2007, the day is observed annually to raise awareness about autism spectrum disorder (ASD), a developmental condition that affects communication, behavior and social interaction. Governments, organizations and advocacy groups worldwide organized events, campaigns and discussions aimed at increasing public understanding and encouraging inclusive policies. Landmarks in many cities were illuminated in blue as part of the global Lighted Up Blue initiative, symbolizing support for the autism community. Experts emphasized the importance of early diagnosis, accessible education and community-based support systems to ensure individuals with autism can lead independent and fulfilling lives. Advocates also called for a shift from awareness to acceptance, stressing the need to recognize and respect neurodiversity. This year's observance highlighted the ongoing need to break stigma and build a more inclusive society where individuals on the autism spectrum are empowered and valued. A group of foreign returnees from Nepal's northern Dading have launched a cooperative farming initiative, starting with 120 pigs to create local employment. They also plan to expand into fish, poultry, livestock and vegetable production to promote self-reliance. This initiative has enabled the youths to become self-employed and earn income within the country, while also sending a message that united youths can achieve success at home. Subeksha Rajak with local correspondent Shiva Salwal from Dading dives deeper on this.
In Salyantar of Tripura Sundari Rural Municipality, Northern Dading, a group of returnee youths is rewriting the story of employment. 58 young men who came back from foreign labor markets have joined hands to form a cooperative determined to create jobs in their own village rather than abroad. Their mission is clear: to transform agriculture into a sustainable source of income. With rented land and an investment of nearly 40 lakh rupees, the cooperative has already begun pig farming, raising 120 pigs in the first phase. Plans are underway to expand into poultry, fish, goats, buffaloes for dairy and vegetable farming.
करिब बेच्ने बेला 7-8 महिना भित्रमा बेच्ने बेला हुँदा रहेछ। अब हामीले मार्केट खोज्दै छौं यो बेच्नको लागि। अलि राम्रो मार्केट भयो भने कन्टिन्यू दिन पाइन्छ कि भनेर। अब यो बुंगुर फार्म को लगानी भनेको अहिले हामी बढाउँदै छौं। अहिले सम्म अराउन्ड 40 लाख जति लगानी भएको छ। यसलाई बढाउने कर्मिक रूपमा बढाउने उद्देश्य छ हाम्रो। यसमा बुंगुर मात्रै नभएर अब कुखुरा, बाख्राहरू, लोकल कुखुरा, माछाहरूको पनि प्लान छ हाम्रो बिस्तारै। अहिले हामी नयाँ भएको कारणले 1 by 1 अहिले बुङ्गुर मात्रै छ बिस्तारै फार्म बढाउँदै जाने हाम्रो उद्देश्य हो
The youth say their campaign is driven by the belief that the sweat shed abroad should instead be invested at home to make the country prosperous. Their effective effort is not only providing self-employment but also sending a powerful message that united youths can achieve meaningful change within Nepal. Local governments have welcomed the initiative, offering support in marketing and promising policies that encourage youth self-employment. Representatives emphasize that such ventures can help keep young people in their villages, contributing to rural development and reducing dependency on foreign employment.
सँग समन्वय गरेर युवा साथीहरूलाई विदेशमा जाने साथीहरूलाई यही छ तपाईको चाहिँ दुख गर्न पर्यो मिहिनेत गर्न पर्यो आफ्नो परिवारसँग बसेर कम्तिमा 50-60 हजार आम्दानी गर्न सक्ने यही छ भनेर हामीले सचेतनामूलक कार्यक्रमहरू पनि दिइरहेको छ
This cooperative stands as a credible example of accountability and resilience. By turning experience gained abroad into enterprise at home, Dhading's youth are weaving a new narrative of prosperity rooted in their own soil.
Time now for international updates after the short break. Iran has warned of broader and crushing attacks in response to Trump's latest threat to hit Iran extremely hard over the coming weeks. A spokesperson for Iran's military says US-Israeli attacks on the country have been insignificant, claiming the two countries have incomplete information about Tehran's military capabilities and equipment.
با توکل بر خداوند متعال این جنگ تا خاری ذلت و پشیمانی دائمی قطعی و تسلیم شما ادامه خواهد داشت. در تداوم ضربات و سیلی‌های محکم و غیرقابل تصوری که تاکنون خورده اید منتظر اقدامات کوبنده‌تر، وسیع‌تر و ویرانگر ما باشید.
US President Donald Trump says the United States is nearing completion of its objectives in the war against Iran and hailed American forces for scoring overwhelming victories. In a primetime address from the White House, Trump said the military campaign, launched more than a month ago alongside allied forces, had made significant gains in degrading Iran's military capabilities.
Armed forces have been extraordinary. There's never been anything like it militarily. Everyone is talking about it, and tonight I'm pleased to say that these core strategic objectives are nearing completion.
China says that US and Israeli strikes on Iran are the root cause of the Strait of Hormuz blockage after US President Donald Trump called on affected countries to seize the key waterway. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning also addressed the conflict between Afghanistan and Pakistan, saying that Beijing was playing a constructive role in mediating tensions between the two sides.
霍尔木兹海峡通航受阻的根源是美国和以色列对伊朗的非法军事行动。只有停火止战，实现海湾地区的和平稳定，才能从根本上维护国际航道的安全畅通。各方应当共同努力，推动局势降温，防止地区局势动荡对全球经济和能源安全造成更大的影响。
French President Emmanuel Macron's plane has arrived in Seoul for a two-day state visit, during which he is scheduled in particular to meet with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung. While speaking to journalists upon his arrival, Macron said the war being waged by the United States and Israel against Iran will not resolve the nuclear issue of Tehran's nuclear program in the long term, says calling for in-depth negotiations. Macron also noted that France is prepared to play a mediating role in facilitating talks between the parties involved. A 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck in the Molucca Sea off Indonesia's Ternate Island early Thursday, killing at least one person. The quake, which struck at 6:48 a.m. local time at a depth of 35 kilometers, sparked tsunami warnings, which have since been withdrawn. While the region experiences high levels of seismic activity, some residents said this was one of the strongest earthquakes they have felt at least the past 6 years. The Hawaii-based Pacific Tsunami Warning Center initially warned that tsunami waves less than 1 feet were possible along the coasts of Guam, Japan, Malaysia, Papua New Guinea, the Philippines and Taiwan. The tsunami alert was lifted after 2 hours. To more international updates, but before that, time for a short break. Astronauts on the Artemis 2 mission are orbiting the Earth and carrying out checks before setting course to the Moon. The first crewed mission around the Moon in half a century took off from Florida on Wednesday. If all goes to the plan, the spacecraft will head out of Earth's orbit on Friday. While the astronauts won't land on the Moon's surface during their 10-day mission, they will be the first people to leave low Earth orbit since the Apollo 17 Moon mission in 1972. The mission will have the astronauts orbit the Moon to validate life support systems, deep space navigation and manual piloting techniques essential for future landings. Pope Leo XIV presided over the traditional Chrism Mass at St. Peter's Basilica on Holy as the Catholic Church enters one of its most solemn liturgical seasons. The Mass, attended by hundreds of bishops, priests and faithful, saw clergy renew their ordination promises and receive consecrated oil for the sick, catechumens and the sacred chrism. In his homily, the Pope urged Christians to spread the fragrance of Christ where the stench of death reigns, calling for reconciliation, unity and a renewed commitment to mission in a world beset by conflict and division. This Chrism Mass marks a key moment in Holy Week, which culminates in Easter, a festival the Pontiff will celebrate for the first time since his election last year, following the death of his predecessor. The week's ceremonies include the Mass of the Lord's Supper on Thursday evening, the Good Friday service on April 3, the Easter Vigil and Easter Sunday Mass on April 5, events that draw thousands of worshippers to the Vatican. A rare and endangered golden monkey was born at Paradise Park on March 17, marking the first successful birth of the species in Belgium. The newborn is reportedly in good health and is being carefully cared for by its mother, with veterinary staff closely monitoring its development. The zoo said the birth is a significant achievement for conservation efforts aimed at preserving the species, which faces habitat loss and declining numbers of the wild. Paradise Park, known for its diverse collection of exotic and endangered animals, said the addition of the golden monkey underscores the importance of international cooperation in conservation and breeding programs. The zoo plans to continue monitoring the infant and its mother to ensure they thrive in the months ahead. Well, that was latest from the international front. Now to sports. Nepal's departmental team Tribhuvan Army Club in Sudurpashchim province registered contrasting victories in the ongoing Men's Prime Minister Cup today, with one match ending in a dominant chase and the other going down to a tense finish. In Janakpur, Tribhuvan Army Club delivered a commanding performance to defeat Madhya province by 6 wickets in the 24th match of the tournament. Chasing a modest target of 185, Army reached 185 at the loss of 4 wickets in just 29.2 overs, finishing the game with a massive 124 balls to spare. Earlier, Madhya province was bowled out for 184 after failing to build substantial partnerships. Meanwhile, in Birganj, Sudur Pashchim province held its nerve to secure a narrow 2-wicket win over Gandaki province in the 25th match. After being set a target of 191, Sudur Pashchim reached 191 at the loss of 8 wickets in 39.2 overs, sealing victory with 64 balls remaining. Gandaki province had early posted 190 runs, putting up a competitive total, but was ultimately undone by Sudur Pashchim's resilience in the latter half of the innings. The results add further momentum to the PM Cup, with teams jostling for position as the tournament progresses. The FIFA World Cup 2026 qualifying playoffs have concluded, finalizing the 48 teams set to compete in the tournament hosted by the United States, Canada and Mexico this summer. The 42 teams that had already qualified were placed into their respective groups during the draw held last December. The remaining 6 spots were filled by the winners of the playoff finals. As a host nation, the United States was automatically placed in Group D. The U.S. will kick off their campaign on June 12 against Paraguay at SoFi Stadium in California. It will then face Australia before concluding the group stage against Turkey, who qualified after defeating Kosovo on Tuesday. Canada is in Group B and will begin their tournament on June 12 at BMO Field in Toronto against Bosnia and Herzegovina. Their final 2 group stage matches will be against Qatar and Switzerland. Mexico has the honor of hosting the opening match of the World Cup on June 11 at the Estadio Azteca in Mexico City against South Africa. Co-host Mexico will also face South Korea and the Czech Republic in Group A. And before we sign out, here are the reminder of our top stories. Nepal's newly elected House of Representatives convenes first session. Home Minister tables 3 ordinances as lawmakers promise reform. Nepal's National Assembly to elect its vice chairperson on April 6. RSP nominates DP Arial as candidate of Speaker of HOR. SE exam kicks off, center-based grading system introduced, results expected within a month. Tehran warns of broader attacks after Trump says US will hit Iran extremely hard in coming weeks. Artemis 2 crew rockets toward moon. NASA embarks on first manned moon mission in over 50 years. And Trivanami Club cruises to comfortable win in the ongoing PM's Cup. Sudur Pashchim secures a narrow win. And that's it for this edition of Primetime News. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepal time. And do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu, public service broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World. Facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal. Telling stories that endure across centuries. Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World, taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Pashupatinath is located in the eastern part of Kantipur city, approximately 5 kilometers away from Bagmati River. During the Lichavi period, the area surrounding Pashupatinath was known for animal rearing. This region includes Duasthali, Kuveshwari, Gaurighat, Chaba Hill, Ganeshtan, and Kotuwali, all of which are part of the Pashupatinath area. In 1979 AD, UNESCO designated Pashupatinath as a World Heritage Site. The blessings of Pashupatinath have been revered since ancient times, indicating the site's significance long before the Lichavi dynasty. The presence of Jyotirlinga, a sacred representation of Lord Shiva, is mentioned in one of the ancient texts, highlighting its historical and religious importance.
पशुपतिनाथको चाहिँ प्रादुर्भाव पहिला यहाँ चाहिँ एउटा ठुलो ढिस्को भएको, त्यो ढिस्कोभित्र चाहिँ गडिरहेको होइन। अब त्यो गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ एउटा कीर्तिपुरतिरको गोपालको गाई चर्न आउँदै रहेछन्। त्यो चर्न आउँदाखेरि चाहिँ नि उनले त्यो दुध त्यहाँ आफै स्वतस्फूर्त रूपबाट बगाउँदै रहेछन्। त्यो जुन दुध बगाउँथ्यो त्यो बनेको ठाउँमा के हो भनेर हेर्दाखेरि पछि खनेर हेर्दा त्यहाँ चाहिँ भगवान शिवको ज्योतिर्लिङ्ग उत्पत्ति भएको कुराहरू हाम्रो वंशावलीमा पाइन्छ। तर भगवान पशुपतिनाथ भनेको अनादिदेखि नै उहाँ चाहिँ वैदिक कालदेखि नै, किनभने वेदमा जताततै भगवान पशुपतिनाथको चाहिँ वर्णन पाइन्छ, उहाँको चाहिँ स्तुतिगान गरिएको पाइन्छ। र फेरि हाम्रो शास्त्रले भगवान पशुपतिनाथलाई चाहिँ यो सृष्टिको केन्द्रबिन्दुमा राखेको छ। यो सृष्टि जसले गरे, हुन त चाहिँ ब्रह्मा विष्णु महेश्वर हामी तीन देवता त्रिदेव भनेर मान्छौँ। ब्रह्माले यसको सृष्टि गर्नुभयो, त्यस्तै चाहिँ भगवान विष्णुले पालन गर्नुभएको छ। त्यसपछि यसको संहार गर्ने चाहिँ को त भन्दा भगवान पशुपतिनाथ शिव।
दर्शन गर्ने परिक्रमा गर्ने विधि छ। बाहिरी परिक्रमा गर्दाखेरि गौरी घाट गएर पहिला गौरी घाटमा स्नान गर्ने, त्यसपछि माथि उठेर किरातेश्वरको दर्शन गर्ने, किरातेश्वरबाट तल ओर्लेपछि किरातेश्वरको जो भर्याङ ओर्लिसकेपछि गुहेश्वरी नपुग्दैखेरि दायाँ बायाँ जति पनि शिवालयहरू छ त्यो शिवालयको दर्शन गर्दै जाने। अनि गुहेश्वरीको ढोका बाहिर पनि त्यहाँ चाहिँ बागमतीको किनारमा पनि विभिन्न किसिमका मूर्तिहरू छन्, देवी देवताका मन्दिरहरू छन्, त्यो दर्शन गर्ने। गुहेश्वरी गएर गुहेश्वरीको बाहिरपट्टि चाहिँ शिवलिङ्ग भयो, गुहेश्वरीको भित्र पीठ सबै दर्शन गरिसकेपछि अनि भर्याङ उक्लेर माथिपट्टि हामी गोरखनाथ पुग्छौँ। गोरखनाथको दर्शन गर्ने, गोरखनाथको अगाडि पनि मनोकामना माईको मन्दिर छ, त्यहाँको दर्शन गर्ने। त्यसपछि अझै अगाडि गएपछि मृगस्थलीको माथि विश्वरूपाको मन्दिर छ, जसलाई जङ्गबहादुरले निर्माण गरेका थिए। त्यो एउटा अचम्मको मन्दिर छ। कामेश्वरीको शिवजीको विशाल तान्त्रिक विधिले पूजा गर्ने, यन्त्रमा उपासना गरिने ठुलो मन्दिर छ। भुइँचालोपछि त्यो अलिकति अव्यवस्थित रूपमा छ र त्यसको निर्माण कार्य हुँदैछ, त्यहाँ दर्शन गर्ने। त्यसपछि हामी तल भर्याङ ओर्लिन्छौँ अब बागमती जानको लागि, पशुपति तेह्रमा लाग्नको लागि। त्यो गरिसकेपछि राम मन्दिर दर्शन गर्ने र राम मन्दिर दर्शन गरिसकेपछि खोलाको किनारै नियमले के भन्छ भन्दा त्यहाँ तीरगङ्गामा गएर त्यो भगवान चाहिँ विष्णु विक्रान्तको दर्शन गर्ने। त्यसपछि फेरि गएर पारिपट्टि गएर वज्रेश्वरी, पशुपतिनाथलाई 9वटा देवीहरूले घेरेर बसेको मध्ये त्यहाँ वज्रेश्वरीको मन्दिर छ, पिङ्गलेश्वरी पनि भनिन्छ, त्यहाँ दर्शन गर्ने। अनि बागमती पारी आएर राजराजेश्वरीको दर्शन गर्ने। अनि फर्केर चाहिँ आर्यघाट आउँछ। आर्यघाट लिएर आइसकेपछि मङ्गला गौरीको दर्शन गर्ने। वत्सले चाहिँ सबै शक्तिपीठ भगवान शिवजीले पनि के भन्छ, पहिला सबै शक्तिपीठहरूको दर्शन गरेर मात्रै म कहाँ आउनु भन्नुभएको छ। त्यसपछि वत्सला देवीको दर्शन गर्ने। अनि त्यसपछि बागमतीको तल किनार ओर्लेर बागमती पशुपतिनाथलाई चढाइएको जुन जल छ, पञ्चामृत जल छ, तल चाहिँ तारकेश्वर भनेर ठ्याक्क उक्लेर 64 सबै शिवलिङ्गको दर्शन गरेर दक्षिण ढोकाबाट प्रवेश, पशुपतिनाथको दक्षिण ढोकाबाट प्रवेश गरेर दर्शन गर्नु भन्ने चाहिँ उल्लेख छ। र अब अहिले कुरा आउँछ, अहिले पनि भनेको थिएँ दक्षिणपट्टि पशुपतिनाथको दर्शन गर्न आउँदा कीर्तिमुख भैरवको चाहिँ पहिला दर्शन गरेर म कहाँ आउनु भन्नुभएकै छ होइन।
In the Gopal Raj dynasty, King Supuspadev described Pashupatinath as Varna Vyavastha. Following Supuspadev, every subsequent king incorporated the name of Pashupatinath within their own names. King Vaskardev offered 3 kosh to Pashupatinath, Brishdev presented a Trishul, Dharmadev contributed a Brishjos, and Narendradev offered various kosh made from different materials. Finally, Jayadev offered a lotus to Pashupatinath.
अहिले हामीले पूजा गर्ने शिवलिङ्ग भनेको चाहिँ 14औं शताब्दीको हो, त्यो भित्रको चाहिँ। तर पशुपति क्षेत्र मन्दिरभित्र त्योभन्दा पुराना अरू मन्दिर मूर्तिहरू पनि छन्, अन्य शिवलिङ्गहरू पनि छन्, जसमध्ये यो पशुपतिको मन्दिरभित्रै परिसरभित्रै एउटा एकदम पुरानो मन्दिर र जसमा भएका मूर्तिहरू पनि एकदम राम्रो मूर्तिहरू छन्, जसमध्ये त्यसमा के छ भने ब्रह्माको मन्दिर भन्छौँ हामी। अब ब्रह्मा चाहिँ नि सनातन धर्मावलम्बीहरूले जब त्रिदेवको पूजा गर्न थाले, ब्रह्मा विष्णु महेश्वर भन्ने तीनटा देवताको पूजा गर्न थाले, त्यसमा ब्रह्मा सृष्टिकर्ता भए, विष्णु पालनकर्ता भए र शिव संहारकर्ता भए। यो तीनटै देवताको पूजा हुने क्रममा विष्णु र शिव चाहिँ निको एकदमै व्यापक भयो पूजा। तर ब्रह्माको विभिन्न पुराणमा विभिन्न कथाहरू छन्, ब्रह्माको पूजा नगर्ने चलन छ। यो पशुपतिभित्र ब्रह्माको मन्दिर भने हामी पश्चिम ढोकाबाट पसेपछि देब्रेपट्टि पर्छ यो मन्दिर, जुन शिखर शैलीमा बनेको छ। यसमा चाहिँ यो मन्दिरको बाहिरपट्टि थुप्रै पुराना मूर्तिहरू छन्। शिखर शैलीमा चाहिँ के हुन्छ भने गर्भगृहमा मात्रै मूर्ति स्थापना गरिँदैन, मन्दिरको बाहिर पनि मूर्ति स्थापना गरिन्छ।
During the Malla dynasty, the offerings made by the kings to Pashupatinath can still be seen today. Among these offerings, Lord Shiva at Pashupatinath received a copper roof and chadi and kamal. Finally, King Jai Singh presented a gold-made mekhla and a grand jatra was conducted.
हामीले प्राचीन कलाकृतिको कुरा गर्यौं भने लिच्छवी काल अथवा लिच्छवी काल भन्दा अघिको हामीसँग ढुङ्गाका मूर्ति मात्रै छन्। काठको किन भएन त भन्दाखेरि कसको आयु कति हो? ढुङ्गाको चाहिँ नि लामो आयु हुने भयो, तर काठ चाहिँ छिटो बिग्रिने हुनाले काठका मूर्तिहरू चाहिँ हामीले लिच्छवी कालको पाउँदैनौँ। अन्तिम लिच्छवी कालको भनेको के छन्, तर अहिले हामी उभिएर हामीले काठमाडौँमा हेर्यौं भने हामीले देख्ने जति पनि मन्दिरहरू छ, हामीले देख्ने जति पनि विहारहरू छ, जति पनि दरबारहरू छ, पार्टीहरू छ, त्यहाँ प्रयोग गरेका सबै काठका कलाकृतिहरू कुनै पनि हामीसँग लिच्छवी कालको छैन। त्यो सबै मल्लकालको पनि अन्तिम मल्लकालका केही पुराना मल्लकालका एक दुईवटा छन्, किनभने काठ लामो समयसम्म बस्दैन।
पशुपति क्षेत्र नेपालको एउटा महत्त्वपूर्ण सम्पदा क्षेत्र हो, जुन चाहिँ विश्व सम्पदामा पनि सूचीकृत छन्। र यो विश्व सम्पदामा सूचीकृत हुनुको विशेष कारणहरूमध्ये चाहिँ एउटा चाहिँ त्यहाँको पुरातात्विक संरचना नै हुन्। त्यहाँ हामीले किराँत कालदेखि भनिएका हामीसँग धेरै मूर्तिहरू छन् र अभिलेखीय सम्पदाहरू हेर्ने हो भने 381 देखिको हामीसँग अभिलेखहरू नै छन्। र त्यहाँ रहेका विशिष्ट विभिन्न प्रकारका विभिन्न फेजका विभिन्न कालका सम्पदाहरू अहिले त्यहाँ सुरक्षित अवस्थामा रहेको छ भने त्यहाँ मूर्त र अमूर्त सम्पदाहरू पनि धेरै अगाडिदेखिका मूर्त र अमूर्त सम्पदाहरू अहिलेसम्म पनि कन्टिन्यू नै छ। त्यसमा अब हामीले त्यहाँको पूजादेखि लिएर त्यहाँको जात्रा पर्वहरू धेरै प्राचीन कालका पूजाहरू अहिले पनि कन्टिन्यूमा आएको छ भने विभिन्न समयमा चाहिँ लिच्छवी कालदेखि मल्लकाल, शाहकाल, राणा पिरियड भएकी सबै काललाई समेट्ने खालको त्यहाँ सम्पदाहरू त्यहाँ रहेको छ। त्यो हिसाबले पनि यो एउटा नेपालकै विभिन्न फेजलाई प्रतिनिधित्व गर्ने र मात्र काठमाडौँको होइन कि देशभरिबाट नै यो सम्पदा यो पशुपतिको त्यहाँ आदरको रूपमा आउने भिजिट गर्ने ठाउँ भएको कारणले यो सांस्कृतिक रूपमा, पुरातात्विक रूपमा र ऐतिहासिक रूपमा पनि अत्यन्त महत्त्वपूर्ण स्थलको रूपमा रहेको छ। त्यसैलाई आधार लिएर हामीले विश्व सम्पदामा सूचीकृत गरेका थियौँ। काठमाडौँ उपत्यकाका 7वटा मोनुमेन्ट जोनमध्ये यो पनि एउटा महत्त्वपूर्ण साइटको रूपमा हामी लिन सकिन्छ।
In 1473 BS, Jyoti Malla renovated Pashupatinath. The priest Nityananda initiated the removal of the 3-story structure of Pashupatinath and reduced it to a single story. Queen Ganga, the consort of Shiva Singh, had the Bhasa Bamsawali written, which is still present today.
सेठ र राजभण्डारीहरू मिलेर काँचो धागो कपडा किनेर लिएर आएर त्यो पशुपतिनाथको बागमतीमा गएर त्यसलाई शुद्धि गरेर सुकाएर आफैले बुन्नुपर्छ, कसैले छुन पाइँदैन। उहाँहरू बसेर पशुपतिनाथ शङ्कराचार्यको मठ मुनि तान छ, कति दिन अगाडिदेखिको उहाँहरूले चोखो बसेर पूजा उपासना गरेर पशुपतिनाथ भित्र लिएर गएर त्यो पवित्र आरोहण चढाउने भन्ने चलन छ। अब त्यो किन गरिएको त भन्दा यो चाहिँ नि जनै पूर्णिमाको अघिल्लो दिन भगवान पशुपतिनाथ चाहिँ त्यो दिन पशुपतिनाथ छोडेर गोसाइँकुण्ड जानुहुन्छ। अघिल्लो दिन जनै पूर्णिमाको अघिल्लो दिन गोसाइँकुण्ड जानुहुन्छ। अब गोसाइँकुण्ड भनेको त हिमाली क्षेत्रमा पर्ने जाडो हुन्छ, भगवान पशुपतिनाथमा जाडो हुन्छ भने त्यो लुगा पहिराएको। त्यसरी चाहिँ त्यहाँ जानु गर्ने र अनि सर्वसाधारणलाई पनि बाँड्नको निम्ति पटुका यो के अरे त्यसलाई पुका भनिन्छ, जनै जस्तो बनाएर अनि भगवान पशुपतिनाथलाई अर्पण गरिसकेपछि त्यसको प्रसादको रूपमा सर्वसाधारणलाई पनि बाँड्ने। बलम्बुमा एउटा नारायणको मन्दिर छ। त्यो बलम्बुको नारायणको मन्दिरमा पूजा गरिसकेर बाँकी रहेको पैसाले पशुपतिनाथमा शोभन जात्रा गर्नु, पशुपतिनाथलाई छाता चढाएर शोभन जात्रा गर्नु भनेर चाहिँ बलम्बुको अभिलेखमा उल्लेख छ। त्यस्तै एउटा अर्को चाहिँ पशुपतिनाथ र चाबेलको बिहार, हेर्नुहोस् त, शिव मन्दिर र बिहारको कम्युनिकेसन दुईजनाको समन्वय भएको एउटा नागचा प्याखा भन्ने चाहिँ एउटा नाच छ। त्यसमा चाहिँ नाच नचाउने काम, नाचको ट्रेनिङ दिने, त्यो नाच्नेहरू चाहिँ बिहारले उपलब्ध गराउने, गहनाहरू सबै त्यो जुन महादेव र पार्वती बनेर नाचिने हो, महादेव र पार्वती बन्नलाई जसले गहना लगाउने त्यो गहना लगाउन दिने चाहिँ नि जयवाश्वरी भण्डार तहबिलले दिने, बिहारबाट चाबेलको बिहारबाट नचाउँदै नचाउँदै पशुपतिनाथ क्षेत्रमा ल्याउने। यो धेरै वर्षसम्म रोकिएको थियो, तर एउटा राम्रो पक्ष भनौँ फेरि त्यसलाई अहिले जगाइएको छ, फेरि निरन्तरता पाएको छ।
सबभन्दा पुरानो मूर्ति आजसम्म मानिएको अभिलेख भएको मूर्ति चाहिँ नि जसलाई हामी तिलगङ्गा भन्छौँ, तिलगङ्गामा भएको त्रिविक्रम वामनको विष्णुको अवतारमध्ये एउटा अवतार वामन हो। त्यो वामनको अवतारको मूर्ति छ, त्यो चाहिँ सबभन्दा पुरानो मूर्ति हो, अभिलेख भएको, पूर्ण अभिलेख, सबै पढ्न सकिने। राजा मानदेवले एउटै समयमा दुईटा मूर्तिहरू स्थापना गरे, एउटा पशुपतिको तिलगङ्गामा स्थापना गर्यो त्रिविक्रम वामनको मूर्ति, अर्को मूर्ति चाहिँ नि लाजिमपाटमा स्थापना गर्यो। त्यो दुईटै मूर्तिमा एउटै अभिलेख छ, एकै प्रकारको अभिलेख छ। दुईटै मानदेवले आफ्नो आमाको पुण्य वृद्धिको लागि मैले विष्णुको अवतार त्रिविक्रम वामनको मूर्ति स्थापना गरेँ भनेर लेखेका छन् होइन। त्यसकारण मूर्ति अभिलेख पनि भएको, मिति पनि भएको मूर्ति चाहिँ नि त्रिविक्रम वामनको मूर्ति भयो, तर शैलीको हिसाबले त्योभन्दा प्राचीन मूर्तिहरू छन्। त्योभन्दा प्राचीन मूर्तिहरूमा चाहिँ नि जस्तो आर्यघाटमा भएको विरूपाक्षको मूर्ति पर्छ। विरूपाक्षको मूर्तिको जुन शैली छ नि, त्यो शैली चाहिँ नि कस्तो भनेदेखि किराँत कालमा शासन गर्ने राजाहरूको जुन शारीरिक बनोट छ त्यो बनोटलाई दर्शाउने खालको मूर्ति छ। त्यसमा अभिलेख छैन, कुनै पनि अभिलेख अहिलेसम्म भेटिएको छैन, त्यसमा कुनै कुरा अङ्कित छैन। तर त्यो विरूपाक्षको मूर्ति स्थापना गरेको जुन मन्दिर हो त्यो मन्दिरमा अरू पनि दुई तिनवटा मूर्तिहरू छन् र मूर्तिकलाको अध्ययन गर्ने नेपाली विद्वानहरू, विदेशी विद्वानहरूले त्यो गर्भगृहमा गएका मूर्तिहरूलाई लिच्छवी कालभन्दा पूर्वको मानेका छन्, पहिलेको मूर्ति मानेको छन्, जसमा एउटा विरूपाक्ष भयो। त्यसपछि त्यहाँ मृगेश्वर भनिन्छ। शिवपुराणमा शिवले विभिन्न अवस्थामा आफ्नो स्वरूपहरू परिवर्तन गरेका कथाहरू आउँछन्, जसमध्ये एउटा उनले यो मृगको स्वरूप लिएर त्यो वनमा विचरण गरेको कथा छ। त्यहाँ एउटा मृगको मूर्ति पनि छ। र अर्को चाहिँ नि राजपुरुष पनि भन्छन्, कसैले राजपुरुष भनेछन् किनभने एउटा गद्दीमा त्यहाँ एउटा बलिष्ठ शरीर भएको अलिकति देख्दाखेरि नै एउटा एकदम स्तरीय मूर्ति भन्छौँ नि हामीले प्रज्वल्ल खालको मूर्ति छ त्यसलाई चाहिँ कसैले राजा भनेका छन् कसैले चाहिँ पछाडिपट्टि सूर्यको जस्तो तेज भएको हुनाले सूर्यको मूर्ति पनि भनेका छन् त्यो मूर्ति पनि छ कारण त्यो कोठामा चाहिँ नि त्यो मन्दिरमै भनौँ त्यो मन्दिरमा 3-4वटा त्यो शेखर शैलीको मन्दिर छ 3-4वटा प्राचीन मूर्तिहरू छन् त्यो पनि पशुपति क्षेत्रमा भएको प्राचीन मूर्ति हो पशुपति क्षेत्रमा थुप्रै शिवलिङ्गहरू छन् जुन अभिलेख भएको पनि छ अभिलेख भएको पनि अभिलेख नभएको पनि फेरि शिवलिङ्ग प्राय 2 प्रकारका 3 प्रकारको शिवलिङ्ग बनाउनु चलन छ 2 प्रकारको बढी प्रचलन छ एउटा चाहिँ हामी सादा शिवलिङ्ग भन्छौँ जसमा मुख कोरिदैन शिवलिङ्ग बनाइएको हुन्छ शिवलाई पञ्चमुखी मान्ने चलन छ पूर्वबाट सुरु गरेर तत्पुरुष सद्योजात वामदेव अघोर र ईशान भन्छौँ पूर्व पश्चिम उत्तर र दक्षिण चारैतिर र माथिपट्टि आकाश तत्त्व हुन्छ त्यो 5वटा मुखको प्रतिनिधित्व गरेर शिवलाई आह्वान गरिन्छ पूजा कारण पञ्चवक्त्र भन्ने चलन छ 5वटा मुख भएको शिव तर त्यो चाहिँ नि कल्पना गरिन्छ तर त्यसमा मुख बनाइएको हुँदैन पूजा गर्ने बेलामा चाहिँ नि अब सुरुदेखि नै पूर्व दिशा पश्चिम दिशा गरेर बन त्यस्तो एउटा सादा शिवलिङ्ग भयो अर्को चाहिँ नि यही 5वटा मुखलाई फेरि मुहार बनाइन्छ शिव 3टा आँखा भएको त्रिनेत्रधारी हुन् त्यसकारण 3टा आँखा बनाइन्छ र शिवले चाहिँ नि गलामा सर्पको माला लगाउने भएर सर्पको माला पनि लगाइएको हातमा कमण्डलु लिएको रुद्राक्ष माला लिएको तर हात त्यसरी शिवलिङ्गमा बनाएको मुखलिङ्ग भन्छ एउटा सादा भयो अर्को मुखलिङ्ग भयो पशुपति क्षेत्रभित्र चाहिँ नि सादा शिवलिङ्ग मुखलिङ्ग पनि एउटा चाहिँ हामीले पञ्चमुखको कुरा गऱ्यौँ अर्को शिवलिङ्ग एक मुख मात्रै पनि हुन्छ एउटा मात्रै मुख बनाइन्छ दिशा चारैतिर भयो एउटा दिशामा मात्रै मुख बनाउँ त्यस्तो पनि पशुपति क्षेत्रमा 10-12 शिवलिङ्गहरू छन् हामीले पशुपति क्षेत्रमा एकचोटि मात्रै पाइला टेक्न पायौँ भने पनि 100वटा अश्वमेध यज्ञ गरेको बराबर पुण्य मिल्छ भनेको छैन अझ त्यहाँ प्राण जानको लागि मानिसहरूले त्यही भएर धेरैजना काठमाडौँका बासिन्दाहरू अनि अरू पनि केही रोग लागेर अब मृत्यु नजिक छ भनेर थाहा पाइसकेपछि त्यो आर्यघाटमा आएर त्यहाँ बस्ने घरहरू नै थिए सेतो घर रातो घर भनेर त्यहाँ आएर बसेर प्राण त्यहाँ छोड्न पाइयो अन्तिम अवस्थामा पशुपतिको ब्रह्मनालमा सुतेर पशुपतिलाई चढाइएको जल सेचन गर्न पाइयो र आर्यघाटमा अन्त्येष्टि गर्न पाइयो भनेदेखि त्यो मान्छेले मोक्ष प्राप्त गर्छ भन्नेको छ त्यसले गर्दा त्यो क्षेत्र एकदम ठुलो धाम हो
त्यस्तै पशुपतिनाथमा हुने लिङ्ग जात्रा कुण्ड जात्रा उपलिङ्ग जात्रा मध्ये लिङ्ग जात्रा धेरै वर्षसम्म हराएर चलेको छ तर उपलिङ्ग जात्रा र कुण्ड जात्रा हराएको छ त्यसलाई फेरि रिभाइभ गर्नुपर्ने छ अब यस्तै हामीले प्रचार प्रसार गर्नुपर्छ रिसर्च गर्नुपर्छ जति अध्ययन गर्यौँ त्यसका व्यवस्थाहरू मिल्दै जान्छन् र कालान्तरमा यो रिभाइभ हुन्छ नै हामीले गर्नु पनि पर्छ यसलाई
हाम्रा प्राचीन स्मारक प्राचीन सम्पदा भनेको हाम्रो पहिचान हो हाम्रो यसको चाहिँ एउटा मापन पनि हो हामी कति सभ्य छौँ हामी कति हाम्रो सभ्यता कहाँ पुगेको छ भन्ने एउटा मापन पनि हो त्यो प्रविधि त्यो मौलिक स्वरूप र मौलिक सामग्रीहरू जुन चाहिँ अति उत्कृष्ट छ यहाँको भौगोलिक वातावरणको लागि इकोलोजीसँग म्याच गर्ने गरेर हाम्रो पुर्खाले डेभलप विकास गर्दै गर्दै हामी यहाँ पुगिसकेका छौँ भने यसलाई संरक्षण गर्ने दायित्व हाम्रो हो र त्यस्ता सम्पदाहरूलाई चाहिँ हामीले मौलिक स्वरूपमा मौलिक सामग्री प्रयोग गरेर मौलिक प्रविधिबाटै बनाउन चाहिँ हामी सबैले प्रयोग गर्नुपर्छ र हाम्रो सोच पनि त्यही हुनुपर्छ विकास निर्माणका कामहरू गर्दा पनि त्यस्ता सम्पदाहरूलाई केन्द्रबिन्दुमा राखेर अरू थप विकासका कामहरू व्यवस्थापनको कामहरू गर्नुपर्छ
भगवान पशुपतिनाथको मन्दिर रहेको कारणले गर्दाखेरि यो सबै हिन्दूहरूको लागि मात्रै, शिव भक्तहरूको लागि मात्रै अथवा चाहिँ शैव मत मान्नेहरूको लागि मात्रै हो कि भन्ने जस्तो मान्छेले बुझेका हुन्छन्। तर पशुपति क्षेत्र भनेको यस्तो स्थल हो, त्यो सद्भावको क्षेत्र हो। त्यो चाहिँ सबैको, अब त्यहाँ पशुपति क्षेत्रमा हामी गयौँ भने त्यहाँ विष्णुका मन्दिरहरू पनि छन्, विष्णुका मूर्तिहरू पनि छन्। त्यस्तै शाक्यमुनि बुद्धका, लोकेश्वरका, पद्मपाणीका मूर्तिहरू पनि छन्। चैत्यहरू पशुपति क्षेत्रभित्रै धन्धु चैत्यदेखि लिएर कुटुबैल, चाबियार होइन अनेक बौद्ध धर्मसँग सम्बन्धित चाहिँ हामीसँग कृतिहरू छन्।
The temple's extraordinary design is attributed to the cumulative contributions of successive kings, each leaving their mark by adding distinctive elements to its architecture. This rich history of royal patronage is a primary factor contributing to the exceptional and intricate design of this revered temple.
A vision started in 2022 to promote research-oriented university education. Madan Bhandari University of Science and Technology is located in Chitlang, Mokwanpur, far away from the hustle and bustle of the town. Nepal's first research-oriented public university focuses on science, technology, and innovation, offering interdisciplinary graduate programs designed to address Nepal's development challenges. Madan Bhandari University provides PhD and master's programs in organic agriculture, forest biomaterials science and engineering, sustainable and resilient infrastructure, and artificial intelligence data science. The university emphasizes hands-on research, community engagement, and practical problem solving with scholarship programs available for selected students. Professor Rajendra Dhoj Joshi, president of the university, describes the university as a beacon of hope for Nepal's higher education, highlighting its mission to build a prosperous and just Nepal by linking science and technology to national development.
Every Nepali dreams about making Nepal big. I understand that world-class universities need a lot of resources, primarily as you have said, unless we are able to provide free education, tuition free, then provide scholarships. Good students, bright students do not stay in Nepal. Resource is our biggest constraint. In terms of management, governance, we do not have problem. Students, teachers and management is single family. We do not quarrel. We do not have any problem. The only problem is the resource. We cannot say that simply because we do not have money, we will not deliver courses. Because we have the mission of building prosperous Nepal. It's our duty, everyone's duty to build Nepal. Within 10 years, we would have transformed the country in terms of building technological capacity. Now we have 65 students. 65 students are doing research. So they will implement 65 projects in the country. After 10 years, probably thousands of students will have their own industry, their own products. So they will be able to sell in the international market or displace imports. So in that terms, we would like to see, or we are confident that we will make a change. Nepal's GDP will start growing, and we no longer will be pessimistic country as we are.
The university students are engaged in cutting-edge research. One PhD scholar in mycology science is exploring the future applications of mushrooms, while another is studying nutrients and vegetables and mushrooms, including phytotoxicity and fish testing, as part of applied food and environmental science research.
Our field visit, mushroom foraging visit in the rainy season, and take out the baskets and go in the field and pick up the mushrooms and label them and study morphologically, identify using the books and articles, and bring the mushroom here in the laboratory, clean them, and we dry the mushroom in dehydrator, and after drying we perform extraction using 80% alcohol in rotovac, and after the extraction is performed we test the mushrooms against the human pathogens also.
हामीले लोकलहरुसँग बसेर उहाँहरुसँगै जंगल जान्छौं, जंगलबाट हामीले उहाँहरुसँगै बसेर कलेक्ट गर्छौं। त्यसरी कलेक्ट गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ 50+ एडिबल मशरूम चाहिँ हामीले डकुमेन्ट गरेका छौं। साथसाथै हामीले अब डिफरेन्ट सर्वेहरु गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ जस्तो बुढापाकाहरुको तुलनामा भर्खरको यङ जेनेरेसनहरुमा चाहिँ मशरूमको नलेज चाहिँ घट्दै गएको चाहिँ देखिरा छौं। त्यही भएर चाहिँ हामीलाई इम्पोर्टेन्ट एउटा एस्पेक्ट के लाग्यो भने चाहिँ हाम्रो जंगलमा यति धेरै रिसोर्सेस छ, त्योसँग एसोसिएटेड नलेजहरु यति धेरै छन्, तर बिस्तारै अब पढाइको कारणले, अब माइग्रेसनको कारणले अथवा वैदेशिक रोजगारको कारणले त्योहरु चाहिँ बिस्तारै हराउँदै गइराछन्। हो त्यही भएर चाहिँ हामीले एउटा इम्पोर्टेन्ट एस्पेक्ट लागेको चाहिँ त्यो कुरा नलेजहरुलाई चाहिँ डकुमेन्ट गरेर राखौं। अब आर्टिकलहरु हुन सक्छ अथवा बुकै भएर पब्लिश गरौं भनेर चाहिँ हामीले सबै डकुमेन्ट गरेका छौं। अब त्यसको चाहिँ बुकहरु चाहिँ बनाउने
The university is equipped with advanced facilities, including a sophisticated gas chromatography, mass spectrometry machine used to analyze natural and organic products. Researchers are also conducting wall mortar tests to study the efficiency and sustainability of traditional stone houses. Additionally, the university has a dedicated bamboo research program focusing on species such as Bambusa balcua and Bambusa nutans. This work contributed to the Manual for Design of Bamboo Structures 2025, developed by the Ministry of Urban Development and the Department of Urban Development and Building Construction. Madan Bhandari University held its first ever commencement ceremony, marking a milestone in the university's young history. Graduates shared how the university provided them not just with knowledge, but also hands-on experience, opportunities to grow, and a sense of hope for the future.
This place is so beautiful. Every corner has a site that is so mesmerizing, and there are various memories. One of the memories I'd like to share is that while working in the lab up to 8 to 9 p.m. starting from very early to 8 to 9 p.m. in the lab, I remember how hectic those days were. Even we didn't have the time for the tea breaks, and how our friends from other faculties has waited for us to make sure I reach home safe. I'd like to share an incident that was happened in my journey. Since I am working in a PPBC lab, one of our intern was once bitten by a snake. It was like 7-8 p.m. So I immediately informed. That was also a Saturday. The university was closed, but we were working. We work 7 days a week. So we were working, and while returning, she got bitten by this snake. We immediately informed the university, and the university arranged immediate rescue from here to Kathmandu and to complete care of the situation. That felt more than institutional. It felt more personal, human.
The university offers tuition waivers, and competitive scholarships for both master's and PhD programs, including monthly stipends for selected PhD candidates. Madan Bhandari University collaborates with industry partners such as the CAN Federation to promote ICT education and provide opportunities in artificial intelligence and data science. By combining research, practical learning, and industry engagement, Madan Bhandari University of Science and Technology aims to develop skilled professionals and future leaders who contribute to Nepal's economic and technological growth. Run by a board of trustees in an exemplary model of a university, the Madan Bhandari University ultimately aims to be the linkage in establishing a robust science, technology, and innovation STI ecosystem in the country where research is a rare priority.
Now we move on to the second part of the program, the panel discussion we are having on world-class university in Nepal, feasibility and relevance. As usual, I have the esteemed presence of 6 panelists. In this part of the panel discussion, we head to funding for research and matching funds. That is the theme of the segment coming up next. Without adequate funding, neither universities nor research can thrive. We all know that. Yet there is limited recognition that students constitute the primary human resource for research. Moreover, current policies are often short-term and tied to fiscal years, whatever fundings are allocated, leaving researchers and universities barely 6 months or even less than that sometimes to complete their entire project, and that's a pretty impractical time frame as well. Based on these backgrounds, realities, we now head to Professor Salmi. What funding policies, Professor Salmi, are followed by developed countries or the countries that have the best world-class universities?
An example I read about today, which comes from a small country in Europe called Luxembourg. They have just one public university, and they decided that they would increase the funding by 20%. And not only that, but it's going to be a 4-year commitment from government. So that's very important because it gives stability. As you rightly said, for 6 months to do research is not very helpful. If you are the president of a university, if you want to attract top-level researchers, whether you're talking about your professors or about the students, you need to guarantee that you have funding for more than 6 months. So it's good practice. Denmark is another country that has performance agreements with its universities providing funding for at least 3 or 4 years. Hong Kong used to have the UGC like here that offers a budget, a 4-year budget on a sliding base. So 1 year to the other, it's readjusted. So when you lead the university, you are assured that you have enough resources, not for 6 months, not for 1 year, but at least 4 years. So I think that's a good practice. When you recognize that research and knowledge are your principal elements of wealth, then you need to provide the funding that is aligned with this recognition.
So it should be a multi-year model or a long-term funding basis. Professor Fortier, if I can come to you, how can, let's say, government effectively fund, or the government can be assured by the universities to fund in research?
Yes, I think the best way is for government to let granting agencies do their jobs. And the way the granting agencies do their job is by bringing experts from around the world to panels that will evaluate the proposals of research grants. That's the best way we do. The government should not interfere in that, should have no say in that. Let the people who really know about the field advise us, recommend which ones should be funded. And so that is very important, to leave that decision in people who are really expert in the field to help you make that decision. So that's something that we do. Hands off from government, let people who really know about it. Now, Professor Salmi said that long term, in Canada we will have up to 7 years when we try to attract the very best people and to be leader in areas of research. 7 years is very important. Most of the grants are 3 to 5 years. For students, it's also fairly long term, so that they know, they don't have to worry. I'm in the midst of doing my PhD. I don't know if I'll have money next year, next month. You need to have long-term funding also for students, as well as for the research grants of the university. That's very, very important, to have the long-term commitment to research funding. There's another point that is important as well, is to have a certain level of patience, because there are things that you can do in a short period of time. So when I was at NSERC, we would have a very short-term program, which was, we want you to have an interaction with the private sector. We want you to see if you could work together. I call it a first date. And so the private sector would come with a particular area where they needed help. And so this would be a short-term program. See if we can work together well. And then if we do, then we can move into a longer-term relationship and a longer-term funding programs. That's very good to do. But in other areas, patience is essential. You have to be humble a little bit and realize that you cannot predict the future ahead, and be patient and believe that people who are so smart can maybe see the future a little bit better than you can, and support them.
It's always uncertain.
Yes, the future is uncertain, but what is not uncertain is the ability of human to be creative and to deliver, and to be committed to delivering. That's not uncertain.
All right, I go to Professor Ramakrishnan now. Best practices of funding mechanisms, basically in building up this science, technology and STI, the ecosystem that we talk about. What are your observations on that?
I think I have 3 suggestions. First one is, these are based on my experience in Singapore, as well as what I've seen around the world. Nepal need to set up a very high level national research foundation, because without such a foundation, there is no clear confidence among the research community. There is a funding source and one could rely on. And most of the countries that are progressing very well in this path, they actually have a national research foundation. Second suggestion is, even though governments work on yearly, but there is also necessary to work on the concept of block grants. So it's a 3-year block grants given to the university. It's a negotiation between the government and the universities. When you have this 3-year planning, there is a certain level of certainty, and that gives a bit of autonomy for the universities. So I would recommend 3-year block grant system to be implemented in Nepal. Number 3, third suggestion is, it's very important to build endowment for the universities, and one way is matching resources. As the university creatively brings resources, government should think about matching those funds so that endowment builds up very quickly. So we have done it in Singapore, and now I'm actually seeing that at Tsinghua University as well. So I heard from the audience, already you have parked resources like a carbon tax, green tax is there. You also have CSR funds, which are also limited by the current guidelines. I think that's fine, that's the past. But if you are a future-looking country, it's about how do we now look at the best practices in the world and absorb them. So one could look at carbon tax, green tax, as well as the CSR funds, they could be used for matching resources. And then you are now accelerating the endowment build-up at the universities, which are guided towards high-quality research. And that's how you build a world-class position in whatever areas you choose.
So my question is, who should play the role in convincing the government to make policies that can divert these funds to the areas of research? Is it the academia, or is it the political leadership, or who it should be?
I think it's both. So again, I go back to our experience. I'm not promoting one country, but it's good to give suggestions based on the actual cases. So that's why I keep saying that. So I think the policies should be shaped together, and also in this case, probably you could also include some international people. The reason is they have a lot of experience, and unless you go out and see yourself, you may not know it. So again, we had this international panel that actually advised the government, but is appointed by the government. So the government leaders, policymakers, ask the questions, get the inputs, then they formulate their own policies that are unique to own conditions. So I think that is the way forward.
Mr. Jyoti, from an industrial perspective, how do you envision the role of private sector leadership in supporting Nepal's research universities?
Envisaged has already started some initiatives in this exercise. I think some of the industries who have joined the partnership became partners for research. They have now coming from this organic agriculture field mostly, and that's as is pointed out by our panelists, that seems to be our competitive strength in future. So, and also these companies are not very large, and so the very satisfying part is these small companies have already understood what products they were handling, and they saw that yes, this Envisaged probably is a good partner for us to improve our business and maybe enhance or scale up our operations. That is a very, very good sign. And I think these few companies, I think, are going to attract many more in the coming days. Then of course there are larger industries, and they also sometimes individual industries, but as our Mr. Biren Pandey, he heads the Confederation of Industries, so they are also sectors of industries. So I think we'll have to approach individual companies are the best in my opinion, because I think it's much easier to deal with them, but also I think they may be need for particular, depending on the nature of the problem, we may have to deal with the entire sector of a particular industry, and we have associations for most of the sectors. So that I think also is a very promising field, but I think the best way to proceed is the products or output we make, and we make it, publish it or make it aware to the larger audience. Especially today, I think is a very good example of people who didn't know about Envisaged. They now know that there are 3 graduates already, so such publicity and creating awareness, communicating, I think will create a very good atmosphere for collaborating. And I think industries are waiting to see such things happen. They need it, and they want the right partnerships to happen. So I think there will be a need, but I think we'll have to tackle some of the factors, maybe patents and confidentiality, conflict of interest. Few things we'll have to manage properly, but I think we are on the right track.
I move on to Mr. Pandey now. Can interdisciplinary research that integrates, let's say, engineering with environment, with AI, with technology, will it help build a sustainable research ecosystem in Nepal? As a private sector leader, your expectations on that?
That's really very important. I mean, we just can't think of silos. things are so interdisciplinary, interrelated, cross-cutting issues. So that has to be taken into account to get the synergy out of the system. The AI and this is everywhere. It's in every operations, every the technology is there. So it is really, really very important to have that perspective. At CNI as well, we're trying to see how we can reach to $100 billion economy in the next 10 years. We've identified 8 or 9 different growth sectors, but they're all interrelated. So, and that synergy has to be built in. Otherwise, we'll miss out on a lot of things. So this is really very important what AMBUS is doing, and there's definitely we have to see in that direction.
I go to Professor Joshi now. Why interdisciplinary way of teaching, learning method that you have adopted at AMBUS, Professor Joshi?
Life is holistic. Problems are holistic. You cannot solve part of the problem. Because of that, interdisciplinarity is compulsory. And Madan Bhandari University does not have department for that matter. Departments tend to limit discourse within a silo. For example, if we look at forest biomaterials engineering and science and engineering program, which is basically program aligned to the needs of forest biomaterial sector, we have a chemical engineer, we have a biotechnology expert, we have a structural engineer, and we have environmental science expert. It's one program but 4 disciplines. And also we never say that what did you study at some stage. For example, a physicist has become chemical engineer, that's fine with us. In Nepal, nobody will employ physicists with chemical engineering, correct? So actually many discoveries occur in between disciplines. Not only technical disciplines, going beyond technical disciplines. So interdisciplinarity is very important. As long as you stifle or try to put in a box everything, silos, it will not work. That's the experience of many universities. We being a university, we are fortunate enough to get rid of that structure.
If you allow me to ask this question, Professor Joshi, research is futuristic, but what we struggle, our society, is more day-to-day practical knowledge. So how is that linked, research, to our day-to-day practical uses? How can university like AMBUS also bring research-oriented things to day-to-day practical uses?
I do not want to put in 2 boxes, futuristic and day-to-day importance. We do both. Because of the pressing problems, we need to focus on a number of many problems which are day-to-day problems. And if we do not look at futuristic problem, then we will remain mediocre. We will not be able to make quantum jump. So I have to look at both. For example, why we are working on bamboo? It's not futuristic in a sense, but more than 10% of the people live in bamboo houses. Poor people live in bamboo houses. But you cannot afford to bring cement and concrete to all hilltops, correct? You have to walk for a couple of days with sacks of cement and steel rod. And also it is not environmentally friendly. Now we have a knowledge and skills which says that we can use bamboo reasonably well, we can use timber reasonably well. We needed stick structure or concrete structures for multi-story building. Now we have technology called laminated lumber, laminated timber, which can build 30-story buildings. And we can have bamboo which can produce 2-3-story buildings as comfortable as other buildings. Because of that, we do need to look at day-to-day problems also. If you do not solve day-to-day problems, then you will become ivory towers for many people.
Maybe today's futuristic research will be tomorrow's day-to-day problem again.
Oh yes, that's true. That's very much true.
All right. Thank you, Professor Joshi. On this segment of the panel discussion, we would like to conclude with this remark from Professor Joshi. On the next segment of the panel discussion with the 6 panelists we will move on to hiring competent faculty in universities. Where universities do hire competent faculties, do they give priority to the masses or do they give priority to the class only? All right. Backbone of world-class university, which we already discussed, should there be international students also to be a world-class university or not, or the enrollment process that will select the cream of the students and identify them not just by their marks and certificates but also by their learning attitude and rest of the things. We will concentrate our discussion on this theme in the last segment of our discussion. Professor Salmi, obviously being at the first seat, my first question comes to you. You have seen universities around the world, you have worked with government around the world. Well, what are the best practices in getting the best faculties in universities, or even best students, enrolling the best students, best talents in the country?
Well, I think, as Professor Fauci mentioned earlier, if you are a well-established university, you have prestige, you have a name, you have a reputation. And that's how you don't have to worry. You have to be just selective because you will have many more candidates than you can afford to, right? I mean, if we think about Harvard, they get top of the top, not only from the US, but from all over the world, right? The challenge is when you are a new university, like Amboss. And if you allow me to share an experience from an institution that I really admire called Olin College of Engineering, that started just 15 years ago. And they are located south of Boston or Cambridge, where you have MIT, where you have Harvard, you have, is it Northeast University, and also, so what they did was very original. They decided that they would not base their recruitment only on the grades and the SAT results of the students, but they advertised that they were looking for risk-taking young people because they were going to offer a totally different way of learning in teams, interdisciplinary learning, and if you know what I was trying to convey is that here you are you're not known and you're next to very good institutions, and yet they were able to attract them. And how did they select them? They brought them for a few days, they pre-selected because they had many applicants, and then they got them to do activities as a group. So for example, they had a big bag with lots of heterogeneous objects, and they told them, you have 2 hours to build a bridge. And the idea was not about really building a bridge, but about seeing how they would work together. Another exercise was to ask them to debate a very controversial topic. I mean, today it would be vaccines. Does it make sense? Is it a public health issue or is it an individual choice issue? Well, you don't have really always a clear answer, like the death penalty. And the point was not to come to the right answer, but to observe how they would make their
arguments.
case and how they would listen to other people's arguments and respect them, be open. And in that way, they were able to attract and select very dynamic, empowered young people. And I must say, when I interacted with students and the graduates of Amboss yesterday, I could see this kind of entrepreneurial, dynamic, futuristic behaviors and attitudes that I think is the best way to attract people, because at the end of the day, it's people who make a great university.
What about the faculties? How to retain them?
Well, again,
with a pay scale that would not match any developed countries that we have, how would universities like MBUS retain the best faculty members?
I think that we assume too often that faculty members are only driven by the pay and the salaries, right? And if I can mention again this example of All-in College of Engineering, one specific feature they had different from other universities in the US, that no tenure. The professor would be on contract, and yet they were able to attract professors from MIT, from Stanford, because this who had tenure, but they were intrigued by this new way of teaching and learning, and so you had these professors who gave up, who left their zone of comfort, who came to All-in, and I think we've already seen it, and President Jose is better placed to mention some specific cases of professors who were comfortable elsewhere. I mean, I met your AI professor who had a very comfortable and prestigious position in the UK, who came to help you with this new project. I mean, if you have an exciting, stimulating, innovating project, you will have professors who will risk. And I know that Professor Siram, when he left his comfort zone in Singapore, going to Tsinghua, and he was telling us everything is in Chinese, he doesn't speak a word of Chinese, and yet look at him happy to risk this new adventure in a different environment.
What are the effective strategies that you apply in recruiting the faculties and selecting the students? You already spoke about that earlier.
Yes.
So just let's concentrate on the
Well,
faculties.
in selecting the students, as was said, of course, their accomplishment prior to applying to university is important, particularly at the undergraduate level, more than at the graduate level. So that is important. But one rule, and it's a very strict rule, it is completely independent of your personal economic situation. It doesn't matter who you are, who your parents were, the decision will be made simply on your own merit as an individual. I remember clearly meeting a very wealthy family in Montreal, where McGill is, and they told me, I was just arriving in the role, they said, you know, Madame, I was refused at your university. You didn't accept me. How is that? I'm a Monsoon, Well, because we accept the student on their own merit, not on the merit of their parents or whatever. So that is very important, completely separating the economic situation and so on, and simply on the individual and what they can bring to university, their achievement, academic, but also outside of the academic area. So that's very important. In terms of professor, of course, if you already have a rank as a top university, you have many, many applicants, so you don't have. But what is very important, particularly for research, is who will you be joining, and the environment, the community. This, with a more mature university, who are already there in your research area that you'll be able, or in other area you'll be able to do collaborative research with. In a university that is brand new, it is also the spirit of building a community. What kind of environment do you want to build? What kind of approach you want to build there? And you have that opportunity. This is incredible. Jalmil said too, it's incredible to say, I'm at the beginning here. We will be building our own community with the values that we want to see in our own community. It's very appealing to people. And one thing I've learned from students is that, yes, of course, financial elements are not insignificant all the time, but there are better incentive and the sense of purpose. What is my purpose? At the end of the day, what am I contributing to society? What will be my purpose? And I think that's an advantage of a university like MBUS, because the purpose is a very compelling purpose. To build prosperous and just Nepal, how much of a purpose do you want to have in life than that? It's absolutely engaging, and you say, I will make good of what I was given to me, and my life will be worth living. if I follow that mission.
Thank you, Professor Fortier. There, I would definitely love to hear the journey of Professor Ramakrishna, one of the most sought-after scientists in the world himself, from Singapore to Tsinghua University in China. That would also speak about what the faculties or the professors, the lead researchers, they look for when in their job placement as well. We would like to hear your innovation more about your nanofabrics and how your journey from, can you share a little bit of your journey from Singapore to Tsinghua University in China?
Well, I think I will go back to full life story. So I started the life in India, then went to UK, then I was in Japan, US, Singapore, and now in China. So what it means is not all researchers are similar. They have their own attraction points. So one key point I believe from my personal experience is when an ecosystem is welcoming, it's like someone is inviting you to their family. I think you would ignore everything else. You would want to give a try. So that the welcoming feeling is extremely necessary. That means the whole system, we're talking about the whole university, need to value the person that he's joining the family. I think that gives a lot of motivation. This is in addition to what my colleague said. There is a purpose, there is also opportunity, there's also something you want to do new. So my own experience is Singapore. It's a wonderful place. I have a very successful career, and it's a really nice place to work and also live. Then the question is, why would I choose to go to Tsinghua? There are many factors. There is a lot I can do by being in Tsinghua to Singapore, to our university. So I went to Tsinghua University. First thing I did is actually build a partnership between National University of Singapore and Tsinghua University. So I brought them together. So that means it's not actually win or lose, actually it's a win-win. So you start looking at people, they seize the opportunity, they would actually maximize even more. And now we're actually working towards how to bring more opportunities between the countries so we could do more things. So the second part is, we all know China is the manufacturing base of the world. And I'm a scientist, as you explained. My core research is nanotechnology, and I focus on fibers. And fibers generally seen as used in garments, textiles. And no doubt, we have innovated the textiles and garments. They're antimicrobial, anti-stain. There are many functionalities, and those products are on the market. But this technology is actually we developed in Singapore, but the industries are in China, the large-scale textile industries. So we need to work with them.
So collaboration is inevitable in a sense.
Inevitable. So they have the scale, they have the necessary manufacturing. So we need to fuse our innovation there, and then we create the products in the quickest possible time. So then we are looking at it's an interdisciplinary. So we start looking at fibers. Can they be understood from a different way? A best example is all of us, all the living beings in the world will not function if they don't have fibrous structures inside. So all your bodies, my body, is made of submicron fibers. We call them collagen fibers. It's fibrous. And they're all organized in a very unique way. And they actually direct the cell function and behavior. Today you are able to think, or today you are able to function certain things. That's because these fibers surrounding the cells, there is an interplay. So this is our fundamental knowledge we discover. And then we try to bring that knowledge to new forms of medical treatment. So for example, diabetic wound management and many others. So we're looking at fiber-based systems for treating diseases. That's one way. Another one, we normally see textiles as just passive systems. But imagine you are wearing whatever you are wearing that actually senses all your 5 senses. Plus in the future, we think we can also sense your brain. The idea is this. We all have 5 senses. You're beginning to think this guy is started.
So where you adding the 6th sense in clothes now?
Yeah, but I want to explain it because people will misunderstand what I mean by 6th sense. This is a spiritual country, so I got to be very careful. So generally we have 5 senses. The brain processes the information. My point is, or my question is, when the brain processes the information, how you are aware? That's because brain is also a sensor. So brain is a processor, brain is a sensor. So we are now trying to use fibers to understand the brain processes and how brain senses. Pick those signals and the 5 senses, we integrate them, if you want to call them 6 senses. So again, it's a simple concept of fibers. We push it to the boundaries.
Is it a possibility, Professor Ramakrishnan, according to the situation and the message delivered from the brain, my fiber changes accordingly? I need a, let's say, airbag at a time of an accident, my textile becomes an airbag, or I need a bulletproof vest when I'm going into a war zone, let's say it becomes a, let's say, bulletproof jacket at the... Is it a possibility future?
Well, that's my future project. You're reading my mind. Mind to mind. So Anta approached me recently. They actually gave me this project definition. They said, can we create a future fabrics that would change so that it would give certain those kind of functionalities. They actually sent me the 10 different areas that we need to work on. Absolutely. So they are even talking about, let's say, shoe. The shoe is generally for just normal purpose. For example, someone has issues with their muscles, so they actually cannot do exercise. The point is, can the future shoe do the exercise by measuring the situation there? It adjusts and actually externally influence the muscle fibers. So you can do that. So you can imagine in the future where you are collecting the information from the body and you are going back into the body through electromagnetic waves, light, sound, and then we can influence the behavior of the cells or whatever is there in our body and then generate the outcomes we need. That's basically what the companies are thinking.
It's fantastic to have a scientist like Professor Ramakrishnan, and wish you all the best that your research materializes pretty soon and your collaboration materializes pretty soon. It's a pleasure having you here in our studios at NTV World, Professor Ramakrishnan.
Can I say that I like to collaborate with Nepali scientists and I like to encourage as many as possible.
Thank you. A big round of applause for Professor Ramakrishnan. Going to Mr. Jyoti again. You are the chair of envisaged at the moment and leading also a leading industrialist in the country. What challenges have you faced in hiring, retaining, and when necessary, letting go the talents in envisaged?
Well, envisaged on paper, as a concept, an idea, we have been in existence for 10 years. But that was in our mind, especially Professor Rajendra Joshi's heart, not only mine, it was in his heart also. And then I think 3 years ago, we became an act and we started to become a piece of legislation. But within a year of that legislation, I think we have very quickly formed the Board of Trustees, which was had to be done by Cabinet. So I think there was a very good support from the government also. They understood some of the things we are trying to do, some of the new things we are trying to do. And I think this eminent Board of Trustees also put together a set of policies to move forward. So I think within BOT and within the university, I don't think there have not been many problems, because all of them have been involved right from the conception. So they understand what envisaged is trying to do. And we also understand we have to give the management, the president and the faculty and the students the freedom to operate the best way, proceed. Only our job is to create the right procedures and the policies so that we are on track. And also when we talk about governance, we talk very loudly about governance. So we should be a model of governance. So that is what I think the Board of Trustees will particularly be very aware of. So I don't think we haven't reached a stage when we have a problem of retaining, hiring, and or letting go of people. We haven't reached that yet. And I also don't think that will happen, because I think only the very motivated people will be with the envisaged. That is the, I think, true character of envisaged.
Do you think the universities, since you are an industrialist as well as a board of trustees in one of the universities, hiring system in a university, does it make a university robust or world class? Does it help become robust?
It's definitely, I mean, the human resources that we have makes the institutions great. I mean, this is the fundamental that we have to look at, and how we can attract competent people, deserving candidates, and how we can retain them. This is very, very, very critical. And as our eminent panelists have mentioned, it's not only one element that the potential person that's coming to the university might be a student or faculty. There are multiple factors, and how best we can motivate them and enhance their personality as a student or as a faculty, how we can inculcate the sense of purpose in them. This is really critical. And being a university, very young university, with such a great sense of purpose and vision, definitely we can attract the most prominent minds to our universities. That's for sure, we can do that.
What is the recruitment and hiring policy of your university, Professor Joshi?
It is very different from one we are used to. We do not give numbers anymore. Numbers for PhD, numbers of years of experience, number of so many papers. Hiring is not science. It's not science, it's arts actually. You cannot measure everything. Very often we tend to think that by measuring everything we make the right choice. Actually, we do not make right choice that way. And it was taught because we have international selection committee, including Professor Fortier. We had some hunch that probably that's the right way to go. But in Nepal, breaking with the recruitment system was very difficult. So we have entirely new system of hiring, whereby we interview each candidate, sometimes multiple times, to find out who is right and which is wrong. And we basically do not put numbers. We write a summary saying that these are the reasons why particular candidate is better than others. So it's revolution in terms of changing. Then actually why people come to us is the sense of purpose, as Professor Fortier, that's the only thing which makes people come to us. Our system is very different. Also no tenure. When you try to hide with no tenure, probably people would be very sensitive, would not like to. And also we have broken away with the system of terms of employment of the government. We are entirely into different system whereby you fund daily basis. You cannot imagine. So, but because of the sense of purpose, because they think that they can contribute to something within the university, they have come. Actually saying, our future faculty members were hired before the university was established. Now 1:2 supply. For every position there were 2 applicants. Applicants from international universities. And also a professor of Vietnamese university, dean of Open University in Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, has become our associate professor, honorary associate professor, which means that now we are increasingly to start attracting faculty members. Attracting faculty members has not become a problem now. In organic agriculture, we have 2 positions, 16 people applied. So if you have sense of purpose and if you give liberty for working, for example, in our university, every professor has a laboratory of his own name. Laboratory Bhushan Shrestha, laboratory of Anupama, laboratory of Sabina, which in world university probably you have to have grey hair before having year 1 laboratory. Now we have year 1 laboratory, 1 year PhD students, year 1 research. So from that perspective, when people see that, they can grow together with the country. That's the most attraction. But I have to admit that we have not been able to give enough remuneration to them. So they are brave people working for future. But we would have been more successful. We could have more resources. But we are a university where our funding for teachers is not guaranteed. So it's very tricky place. But nevertheless, because of confidence, I think that new hiring system, giving liberty to people, sense of purpose will make it happen.
Will you be able to be as selective as you are at the moment when you are enrolling a limited number of students, and tomorrow when your enrollment becomes larger? Or do you want to put a ceiling on the enrollment itself so that your faculty also is as selective as you said right now?
Perfect. We do not want to go beyond 3,000 at any time. That's the capacity our land can hold. And for few years, our chairperson has already said probably 200 we will cap. After 10 years, probably 800. Because world-class universities built now, nobody will build large. Historical world-class universities were built like teaching universities, so they were large. Actually, research students are not very large. At this stage, we are 100% research. Everybody, so we will not grow large. So I do not think that if we grow, we will allow to have substandard teachers. Not at all. Our minimum standard is PhD. None of our universities require in Nepal PhD. And also we have recently refused a PhD, fresh PhD from reputed university because we didn't think that the candidate possesses enough experience. So we will be selective. Whether we will be able to continue to be selective depends upon our performance. If we perform well, we will continue to be selective. And of course our problem is we do not have enough funds. If we had enough funds, we would have been able to bring professors like Professor Sira. We are not in that mode as yet. We are in mode of attracting probably best PhD holders from abroad.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi there as well. So this concludes the final session of the panel discussion. We would go to the audience, an august audience we have in the studio of NTV World here.
Namaste. My name is Sandesh Neopane. I am a PhD scholar from Tribhuvan University. My question goes to Mr. Padma Jyoti sir. While European universities, world-class universities from Europe are now taking admissions for 2027's end, that is December, universities in Nepal are now struggling whether or not to continue this year's 2026's intake for certain courses. So how do we project courses or take admissions for 2000 or 2 to 3 years later than in the present context than where we are today? How do we project what courses we require or how we take admissions for the future? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm very, very optimistic because envisaged has in a different, it's working in a slightly different way compared to the other universities. The courses we offer and also the limited seats we offer, because our target is only about 200 students in the near future, 150 and masters and about 50 PhD. And our first graduate has already come out. So they already came out, and next year again there will be more graduates who have passed out from our university. So the track we are on, I don't think envisaged will face the situation like the other universities, I think we should be okay, because ours will be very research-based and linked to actual needs of the country. And how do we know the country's needs? Industries are also an excellent communication channel through which we know what exactly the country needs. Now, about the second question, whether industries, how can they influence some of the curriculum development in the universities so that the employability of the graduates, they improve. That was, I think, seems to be the question. I don't think we are industries, we are running business. We shouldn't be claimed to be experts in curriculum development, or you are professors. I think that will be a big mistake. But what we can do is tell the right people or colleges and universities that what exactly is the situation with us, what are our problems, where are we facing. If we tell them correctly, I think we should leave it to them to design a course.
Myself, Binita Silwal. I am studying Masters in Forest Biomaterial Science and Engineering program. And my question is for Professor Sriram Ramakrishna. As you mentioned earlier that Nepal need to catch up as quickly as possible, that we are lagging behind in comparison to China and America. So what kind of scientific intervention or innovations do you really think that Nepal should really adapt that are equally important and relevant for our country for the economic growth? Thank you very much.
Your question tells me, as an young mind, you grasp the situation of the world. It's clear these two countries are supercharging the future. And the question is how Nepal should plug into this process. I want to set the context. These two countries, I'm not ignoring other countries, there are many other good countries, but we just, for the sake of conversation, they are very large economies. And they invest lots of money on scientific research, higher education, all levels of education. So Nepal, we know, it's a country unique with a limited population and limited resources. So while that limitations are there, how can Nepal choose winning areas? Generally, we will not encourage, say, we should tell the scientists how to choose the winners. You follow your heart, your passion, pursue the research, be the world class. But given the current stage of Nepal and also the unique situation that's happening in the world, we would have to choose certain areas. And I would again look at what is Nepal and its composition. First thing is, Nepal is primarily an agricultural economy. So how can we improve the agriculture and the produces our high value add products with the most advanced techniques and standards? This is the way you would increase the agricultural economy and also make it much more global.
Hello, my name is Sabnam Subedi. I am a recent graduate from Ambust. My question is to Professor Suzanne. To be a world-class university, is it really necessary to have international students also? And if so, what strategy would you suggest to adopt more international students? Additionally, since most of the Nepali graduates choose to abroad, how can university cope with these kind of problems?
A university that is old has the ability to attract students in every area of scholarship, which is great. But if you're young, what you need to do is focus, 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 focus. Don't try to attract students in everything, every area. You will not get there. But if you choose carefully certain area, my colleague here mentioned many, where you have a chance because of where you are, the environment, to attract students, then that's where you need to focus.
Thank you. Namaste. I'm Dr. Anupama Shrestha Saha. I'm a faculty member and agriculture expert as plant pathologist. My question is for Birendra sir. How can a government play a role in changing the corporate social responsibility policy so that industry can support research and development to the university in Nepal? Thank you.
We've been lobbying with the government, and only a few months ago we had a meeting on how we can best channelize that. At times what happens is the industries that have the institutional enterprise, they have the CSRs lying around, want to invest, and at times they're added back to their, so they're not tax deductibles, they're disallowed sometimes. So we have to make the systems very clear that these are the areas, it's probably the best investment that any enterprise or the industry can make, this R&D, research, and the universities, and they should be allowed to do that. Some part of the legislation allows it, and some has some issues. So as CNI, we are working with that, and hopefully in the very near future we can resolve this, and maybe get some investments from that CSR domain. So I'm very hopeful in that.
Thank you. Fantastic to all our panelists for answering the questions from the audience. Research-based universities are world-class universities. World-class universities, first of all, need autonomy, robust financing model, selective approach in hiring and recruitment. Apart from that, the support, the linkage with industrial sector. These are some of the key factors that create world-class universities. And it's not that only developed countries can have world-class university, and Madan Bhandari University of Science and Technology, MBUST, is on the way towards becoming a future world-class university in Nepal, in our very own small country of Nepal. Then I would also like to thank the audience who were so patient for their input as well. To all our viewers watching us on NTV World, thank you so much for being part of this show. With the entire crew of this special panel discussion, it's me, Devendra Subedi, saying bye-bye.
Good evening and welcome to Business World News Weekly right here on NTV World. I am your host Siksha Bhattrai, bringing you the week's most important stories from around the globe. From high-stakes trade negotiations and energy market upheavals to defense spending surges and breakthroughs in technology, the world has been moving fast. Let's dive in and take a closer look at the headlines that are shaping economies, industries and lives everywhere. Let's begin with global trade, where key negotiations have ended without a breakthrough. Leaders at the WTO failed to reach consensus on major issues after days of talks. The outcome highlights growing divisions in the global economic system.
The World Trade Organization's ministerial meeting ended in the early hours of Monday morning without reaching a deal to extend a moratorium on e-commerce tariffs or on a broader reform work program for the beleaguered global trade rules body. Director General Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala said ministers from the 166-nation global trade body had kept working as the 4-day meeting in Cameroon ran into overtime on Sunday, but she finally called time overnight. Okonjo-Iweala suggested that members use the draft text developed over the 4 days of ministerial discussions to finalize agreements on outstanding issues in further discussions at WTO headquarters in Geneva. Washington was pushing for a far longer horizon for the e-commerce moratorium, with U.S. negotiators seeking a 10-year commitment. Brazil threw a last-minute spanner in the works and was vetoing efforts to extend the moratorium altogether.
Turning to the Middle East, Israel has approved its 2026 national budget amid ongoing conflict. The spending plan includes a significant increase in defense allocation. The move reflects the country's continued focus on security challenges.
Israel's parliament approves the 2026 budget, providing for a significant increase in military spending as the country remains engaged in wars on multiple fronts. The budget passed with 62 lawmakers voting in favor and 55 opposing, underscoring the deep political divisions within the legislature over spending priorities and national strategy. A central feature of the newly approved budget is a substantial increase in military spending, aimed at strengthening the capabilities of the Israel Defense Forces amid continued conflicts and regional tensions. Officials have emphasized that the expanded defense allocation is necessary to support active operations, replenish military resources, and invest in advanced technologies to address evolving threats. The implementation of the budget will likely remain a focal point of political debate, with both supporters and critics closely watching how the increased defense funding impacts Israel's security situation and domestic priorities.
And now to energy markets, where Russia is planning a temporary gasoline export ban. The measure is aimed at stabilizing domestic fuel prices, and it comes as global oil markets remain volatile.
Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak has instructed the Ministry of Energy to draft a government decree to ban gasoline exports starting April 1st, 2026. The ban would remain in place until July 31st, according to TASS news agency. Following a meeting on the domestic fuel market chaired by Novak, the government said in a statement that the measure aims to stabilize prices and ensure priority supply to the domestic market. During the meeting, officials stressed the task set by Russian President Vladimir Putin to prevent domestic fuel price increases from exceeding projected levels. The Deputy Prime Minister noted that turbulence in the global oil and petroleum product market caused by the crises in the Middle East is leading to significant price fluctuations. Novak added that strong demand for Russian energy resources in foreign markets remains a positive factor.
And in Asia, Japan is taking steps to secure critical energy supplies. The focus is on oil-related products essential for industries and healthcare. Officials are working to prevent disruptions linked to global tensions. The Japanese government is launching efforts to ensure stable supplies of oil-related products amid growing concern about the impact of the Middle East conflict on them. The oil derivatives include naphtha and are used in a wide range of industries such as healthcare and farming. The government will seek to diversify procurement of medical-related products, including plastic items used in dialysis, syringes, gloves, and aprons. Japan currently obtains many of them from Asia, but will look for other sources around the world. Plans are also being drawn up to ensure transport operators, manufacturers, and farmers and fishers have sufficient fuel. Japanese Trade and Industry Minister Akazawa Rosei said Japan has sufficient crude oil overall, but there have been imbalances in supply and clogged distribution. Shifting to Europe, Norway is planning a major increase in defense spending. The long-term plan aims to strengthen military capabilities. It reflects rising security concerns across the region.
Norway, a NATO member, is set to boost its defense budget by 115 billion kroner, or $11 billion over the next decade, raising total spending from 112 billion kroner to more than 190 billion kroner by 2035. The Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre announced on Friday. The increase nearly triples the budget compared with pre-2022 levels, reflecting concerns over regional security following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The move aligns Norway with NATO's target of 3.5% of GDP for defense spending and comes after annual increases since 2021, when the budget stood at 65 billion kroner. The government said the funds will support new submarines and frigates, upgrades to critical infrastructure, and enhancement to electronic warfare, air defense, and autonomous systems. Störe also cited rising cost and longer delivery times for defense equipment as key factors shaping the budget plan.
Turning now to technology, Australia is stepping up scrutiny of social media platforms. Authorities say companies are not doing enough to protect young users. Investigations into compliance with new laws are now underway. The world's biggest social media companies are not doing enough to keep children in Australia off the platforms, the country's internet regulator says, despite a law that came into effect late last year. The legislation banned users under 16 from 10 platforms, but Australia's independent regulator eSafety says it has significant concerns about the compliance of Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok and YouTube. Australian Minister for Communications Anika Wells also had said that social media companies were aware of the harm they were causing but chose not to act until compelled to do so. She added that eSafety was actively investigating potential non-compliance by 5 social media platforms, including Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. Australia's ban, which is being closely watched by countries like the UK, was justified by campaigners and the government as necessary to protect children from harmful content and addictive algorithms. Firms like Meta and Snap believe the approach is flawed, but say they're doing the best they can to comply. In the United States, a landmark court ruling is putting pressure on big tech firms. A jury has found social media platforms liable in an addiction-related case. The decision could have far-reaching implications for the industry.
A Los Angeles jury has found Meta and YouTube liable for harming a young woman through the addictive design of their social media platforms. In a historic decision, the court ordered the companies to pay $3 million in damages. A lawsuit argued the platform's algorithms were designed to be harmful. Outside the courthouse, the plaintiff's attorney called the verdict a huge message that these companies can no longer hide from the consequences of their design.
I feel like what we're about here is something beyond just trying to make a buck, beyond just trying to help Kaylee. I feel like we're about something that is incredibly socially important and responsible. And I feel like we've made a great step forward. And I am thankful to God.
The ruling is being seen as a major victory for critics of big tech and a potential blueprint for thousands of similar lawsuits now pending nationwide. Whereas Meta and YouTube say they plan to appeal.
Let's now look at developments in Southeast Asia's tech sector. Thailand has secured a major investment from Microsoft in AI and cloud infrastructure. The move supports its ambition to become a regional digital hub. Microsoft Corp plans to invest $1 billion in Thailand over the next 2 years to build cloud and artificial intelligence infrastructure, executives said on Tuesday, as the Southeast Asian nation seeks to become a regional digital hub. The investment announcement followed a meeting between Microsoft Vice Chair and President Brad Smith and Prime Minister Anutin Charnvirakul at the Government House. The initiative also includes collaboration with the Thai private sector and significant investment in human capital. The move comes as AI adoption accelerates rapidly across Southeast Asia, with Microsoft pledging to support the Thai government's efforts to reduce digital costs and enhance public service efficiency. And in China, innovation in clean energy is gaining momentum. New hydrogen technologies are being showcased across multiple sectors. The focus is on advancing sustainable energy solutions.
At the China International Hydrogen Congress and Expo in Beijing, over 500 companies showcased cutting-edge hydrogen technologies. Key highlights included a smart robot that detects hydrogen leaks using sensors and cameras, and a versatile gas turbine that can switch between hydrogen, ammonia, and natural gas for emergency power supply. Other innovations included hydrogen engines for long-distance trucks, drones with extended flight range for harsh environments, hydrogen-powered bicycles using solid storage, and even hydrogen coffee machines.
In business news, Apple is marking a major milestone this year. The company is celebrating 50 years of innovation and growth. Attention is now turning to its future, especially in artificial intelligence.
Apple Inc.'s 50th anniversary celebrations are underway, showcasing 5 decades of innovation with flagship products, including the iPhone and MacBook. The milestone comes as the company reports more than 3.1 billion iPhones sold and maintains a record market valuation, reinforcing its dominance in the global technology sector. The company's ecosystem of devices and services continues to drive strong global demand and customer loyalty. The anniversary also coincides with rising pressure from rapid advances in artificial intelligence as the Silicon Valley giant faces growing expectations to deliver its next breakthrough innovation. It is said Apple's next phase will depend on how effectively it integrates AI across its products and services.
And that's all for this edition of Business World News Weekly. Those were the top global stories shaping the world economy and beyond. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week with more updates.
Votekosi and Trisuli river rafting. Rafting has lately been gaining popularity among tourists. The adventure sports, which previously was popular only among foreigners, is now drawing the local tourists as well. Trisuli and Votekosi rivers that are close to Kathmandu are two popular destinations for rafting in Bagmati province. Let us first explore Votekosi. Whitewater rafting at Votekosi river is included among the 10 best adventure destinations for rafting in the world. Votekosi, which is well facilitated with food and accommodation, can be a great destination for rafting and other adventure sports. Rafting at Trisuli river is popular among domestic tourists, as the location can be reached in an hour from Kathmandu. This is where most tourists go for rafting in Nepal. Rafting packages of Votekosi and Trisuli are appropriate for those who want to spend some good time for a few days.
वीरताको चिनो, इतिहासको निशानी, राष्ट्र निर्माणको किल्ला। आधुनिक नेपालको निर्माणको लागि पुर्खाहरूले युद्ध लड्न विभिन्न क्षेत्रमा गढी र किल्ला निर्माण गरेका छन्। ती किल्लाहरू वर्तमानमा इतिहासका साक्षी हुन्। सम्भावित बाह्य आक्रमण रोक्न तथा दुश्मनहरूसँग मुकाबिला गर्न उपयुक्त स्थान रोजेर सैनिक कौशलको प्रयोग गरी गढी तथा किल्लाहरूको निर्माण गरिन्छ। नेपालमा रहेका करिब 200 गढीहरूको आआफ्नै विशेषता रहेको छ। बढी हात हतियार सहित दुश्मनका फौजहरू पराजित भएको यी महत्वपूर्ण गढीहरू अहिले इतिहासका प्रमाण बनेर बसेका छन्। इतिहासका विभिन्न कालखण्डहरूमा राजा महाराजाका शासन, हस्तक्षेप, आक्रमण, प्रत्याक्रमणमा सिन्धुली साक्षी भएर बसेको छ। यही साक्षीको प्रमाणिक दस्तावेजहरू र जनश्रुतिहरू नै सिन्धुलीको ऐतिहासिक वैभव हो। सिन्धुली जिल्लाको पश्चिमी भेग तथा हालको हरिहरपुर गढी गाउँपालिकामा पर्ने यो गढी 13औं शताब्दीमा निर्माण भएको इतिहास छ। मकवानपुर र काभ्रे पलाञ्चोक जिल्लाको सिमाना नजिक रहेको यो गढी राजधानी काठमाडौँको रक्षा कवचको रूपमा लिन सकिन्छ। मकवानपुरी सेन राजाको मूल दरबार मकवानपुरमा थियो भने सहायक दरबार अर्थात् किल्लाको रूपमा हरिहरपुर गढीलाई लिने गरिन्थ्यो। 2200 राजाको भाषामा ती दुवै कोटहरू हुन्, जहाँ मकवानपुरे राजा बेला बेलामा गएर बस्दै गर्दथे।
सेन राजाको वैकल्पिक दरबार कोट हरिहरपुर गढी, हरिहरपुर कोट हो त्यो। हामी गढी भनिरहेका छौँ। यो पछि हामी राजाको अस्थायी मुकाम हुनलाई जहाँ राजा गएर अस्थायी रूपमा बस्छन् र यदि मेन राजधानी मकवानपुरमा राजदरबारमा कसैले हमला गर्यो, केही गर्यो भने वैकल्पिक कहीँ त गएर बस्नु पर्यो, फेरि लड्नु पर्यो। भनेपछि यस्तो स्थितिमा राजाहरूले ठाउँ ठाउँमा कोटहरू बनाउँछन्। सेन राजाहरूको पनि आफ्नो राज्यभित्र विभिन्न ठाउँ उनीहरूले कोट बनाउँथे, जहाँ दरबारमा गएर राजा 4 दिन बस्थे, 4 वर्ष बस्थे, 4 महिना बस्थे। भन्दा यो हरिहर इन्द्र सेन राजाले बनाएको यो चाहिँ अर्को एउटा वैकल्पिक मुकाम थियो राजा बस्ने। र पछि नेपाल एकीकरणको युद्धमा पृथ्वीनारायण शाहले 1819 विक्रम सम्वतमा मकवानपुरको दरबारमा हमला गरिसकेपछि अन्तिम राजा पृथ्वीनारायण शाहका जेठान दिग्बन्धन सेन, उनका मन्त्री कनकनीति बानिया, यी लगायत उनका श्रीमतीहरू अब गोर्खालीले हमला गर्छ भन्ने कुरा उठाएको थियो। अनि राजाका अब रानीहरू, छोरीहरू, महिला, केटाकेटीलाई पहिला नै हरिहरपुर गढी पठाइसकेको थियो, हरिहरपुर दरबार कोटमा पठाइसकेको थियो।
हरिहरपुर गढी वरिपरि सेना बस्ने ब्यारेक, देवी देवताका साना ठूला मन्दिरहरू र अलि तलतिर बाक्लै बस्तीहरू थिए भन्ने इतिहास सुन्न पाइन्छ। एक थरीको इतिहास अनुसार राजाहरू लोहङ सेन, राघव सेन, हरिहर इन्द्र सेनले यो कोट बनाए। उनकै नामबाट हरिहरपुर कोट नाम राखिएको थियो भन्ने समेत सुन्न पाइन्छ। अर्का थरी अनुसार सोही समयमा सिम्रोनगढका राजा हरि सिंह देव थिए। उनले यो गढी निर्माण गर्न लगाएकोले यो गढीको नाम हरिहरपुर गढी रहन गएको भन्ने भनाइरहेको छ। तत्कालीन सिम्रोनगढ राज्यका कला, संस्कृति तथा अन्य भौतिक सम्पन्नताले निकै वैभवशाली भएको पाइन्छ। विक्रम सम्वत 1381 मा सिम्रोनगढका राजा हरि सिंह देव थिए। यी राजा ठाकुर वंशका थिए। विक्रम सम्वत 1381 मा दिल्लीका मुसलमान गयासुद्दीन तुगलकले यस सिम्रोनगढ राज्यमा भीषण आक्रमण गरेको थियो। आक्रमणमा राज्य ध्वस्त बनाइएपछि राजा हरि सिंह देव आफ्नी रानी देवल देवी तथा राजकुमार र विद्वान मन्त्री चण्डेश्वर सहित भागेर नजिकैको पहाडमा लुकेर बसेको र आफ्नो राज्य जोगाउन सफल भएको इतिहास सुन्न पाइन्छ। सिन्धुली जिल्लाको तीनपाटन भन्ने स्थानमा हरिसिंह देवको मृत्यु भएको कुरा इतिहासकारहरू बताउँछन्। इतिहासकार लुजियानो पेटेकले हरिसिंह देवको मृत्यु टीपाट भन्ने स्थानमा पुगेर भएको भनेका छन्। यो टीपाट भन्ने स्थान नै हालको तीनपाटन हो। राजा हरिसिंह देवले सुरक्षित रहन बनाएको भएर यो किल्लालाई हरिसिंहपुर गढीको नामले चिनिन गएको एक थरीको भनाइ रहिआएको छ। राजा हरिसिंह देवले मन्त्री चण्डेश्वरको सल्लाह बमोजिम त्यही स्थानमा सानो किल्ला बनाई रहन थाले। पछि सिम्रोनगढका विद्वानहरू, साधुहरू, कलाकारहरू, कालीगढहरू पनि हरिसिंह देव भएकै ठाउँमा रहन थाल्नाले हरिसिंह देवले स्थापना गरेको त्यो सानो किल्ला एउटा राज्यको रूप लिने अवस्थामा पुग्यो। पछि यो किल्लालाई राजा हरिसिंह देवकै नामबाट हरिहरपुर गढी भनेर चिनिन थालिएको हो। पछि पश्चिम नेपाल तर्फबाट मुकुन्द सेन नाम गरेको योद्धाले ठूलो फौजको नेतृत्व गरेर हरिहरपुर गढी कब्जा गरेका थिए। पछि ती मुकुन्द सेनले आफ्नै नामबाट राजधानी मुकुन्दपुर बनाए शासन सञ्चालन गर्न थाले। तत्कालीन मुकुन्दपुर राज्य को नामबाट नै हालको मकवानपुर नाम रहन गएको हो।
अब यो कसले बनायो भन्ने कुरामा दुईटा कुराहरू छ। एउटा चाहिँ सिम्रोनगढका राजा कर्णाट वंशी राजा हरिहर सिंहदेवले बनाएको हो भन्छन्। अब यो यदि हरिहर सिंहदेवले बनाएको हो भने यसको यो गढीको उमेर चाहिँ 650 वर्ष जति भयो र त्यसो नहुँदाखेरि यो मकवानपुर राज्यका राजा हरिहर सेनले बनाएको हो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ हरिहर सेनले बनाएको गढी चाहिँ बढ्दा चाहिँ त्यो ऊ देखिन्छ, प्रमाणित देखिन्छ। किनभने तपाईँले मकवानपुर गढीको रूप त्यसपछि तपाईँले चाहिँ यो हरिहरपुर गढीको रूप हेर्नुभयो भनेदेखि यो चाहिँ अलमोस्ट एउटै छ। भनेपछि मकवानपुर त हरिहर सेन राजाको हो, हरिहरपुर गढीमा पनि त्यस्तै किसिमको गढी बन्नुको मतलब चाहिँ के छ भने यो एउटै राजाले निर्माण, एउटै राजाको पालामा एउटै कालीगढीले बनाएको हो भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ प्रमाणित हुन्छ। त्यसो हुनाले हामी चाहिँ हरिहर सेनले बनाएको भन्ने मान्छौँ। हरिहरपुर गढी एकदम कलात्मक छ किनभने गढीको दुईटा विशेषता हुन्छ। एउटा रम्पार्ट हुन्छ, एउटा मोट भन्छ क्या, दुईटा अङ्ग्रेजी हुन्। रम्पार्ट भनेको चाहिँ गढीबाट माथिबाट शत्रुहरूको गतिविधि हेर्ने रम्पार्ट भयो। अब मोट चाहिँ कस्तो हुन्छ भनेदेखि शत्रुहरूलाई चाहिँ सर्टेन ठाउँभित्र आउन नदिनको लागि चाहिँ खाल्टो खनिन्छ वरिपरि है। त्यो दुई खाले गढी हुन्छ। यो हरिहरपुर गढी चाहिँ तपाईँलाई दुईटै छ, यो रम्पार्ट पनि हो र यो मोट पनि हो। यो चारैतिर पोलिगोनलमा धेरैवटा चाहिँ भुजा भएको जस्तो चाहिँ ठुलो चाहिँ एउटा चाहिँ ठुलो स्पेस छ। त्यो स्पेसको चाहिँ साइडमा चाहिँ मोटहरू भनेको खाडीहरू खनिएको छ र त्यो खाडीमा अहिले तपाईँले हेर्नुभयो भनेदेखि त्यो खाडीमा पानी भरिदिइसकेपछि र त्यो खाडीको बिचको पुल हटाइदिइसकेपछि शत्रुहरू चाहिँ मेन त्यो गर्भगृहमा चाहिँ त्यो मेन चाहिँ ठाउँमा चाहिँ त्यो अलि रणनीतिक हिसाबले महत्त्वपूर्ण ठाउँमा चाहिँ त्यो आउन नसक्ने गरी बनाएको छ।
नेपाल एकीकरणका अभियानमा राजा पृथ्वीनारायण शाहले सिन्धुली गढी सँगसँगै हरिहरपुर गढीमा 300 बढी गोर्खा फौजलाई तैनाथ गरिएको समेत इतिहास रहिआएको छ। गोर्खाली राजा पृथ्वीनारायण शाहको नेतृत्व र उपस्थितिमा विक्रम सम्वत 1819 पुस 22 गते भएको एकीकरण लडाईँमा यो गढी तत्कालीन गोर्खा राज्यमा एकीकृत भयो। यसै गरी चितवनको परेवा कोट गढीमा पनि नेपाली सेनाको सेनाको अर्को टोलीले हमला गरी विजय हासिल गरेको थियो। सन् 1767 मा काठमाडौँमा लडाईँ गर्न आएको ब्रिटिश सेनालाई तत्कालीन गोर्खाली सेनाले सिन्धुली गढीमा परास्त गरेर भारततर्फ फर्काएको थियो। गोर्खाली सेना र ब्रिटिश सेना बीच भएको त्यो लडाईँ गोर्खाली सेनाको विजयको रूपमा स्थापित हुन पुग्यो।
राति चाहिँ यो एक खालको ह्युमिलेसन हो, यो एक खालको चाहिँ यो चाहिँ अपमान गरेको हो। तपाईँलाई दरबारमै दिनुपर्थ्यो, यो सहायक दरबारमा यति पर ल्याएर यो हरिहरपुर गढीमा राख्नुको मतलब चाहिँ तपाईँमाथि अपमान हो भनिसकेपछि पृथ्वीनारायण शाह चाहिँ त्यहीँबाट चाहिँ एकदम चाहिँ उनीहरूको कुरा सुनिसकेपछि त्यहीँबाट रिसाएर निस्किए होइन। निस्किएपछि वास्तवमा उनमा चाहिँ त्यो अब म यो मकवानपुर राज्यलाई पनि मैले कुनै पनि बेला मैले एकीकरणमा म यसलाई चाहिँ म आफ्नै गोर्खाभित्रै म मिसाउँछु भन्ने उनले अठोट गरे। तर त्यतिखेर बडा त्यो भद्र राजा हुनुहुन्थ्यो, उहाँको ससुरा हेमकर्णसेन हुनुहुन्थ्यो होइन। अब हेमकर्णसेन हुँदै त उहाँले केही गर्न सक्नु भएन। तर पछाडि दिग्बन्धन सेन राजा भइसकेपछि विक्रम सम्वत 1819 मा चाहिँ त्यो मकवानपुर राज्य चाहिँ एकीकरण भयो, गोर्खामा एकीकरण भयो। र गोर्खामा पनि एकीकरण हुँदा पनि अहिले तपाईँले जहाँ छायाङ्कन गर्न गइरहनु भएको छ त्यो हरिहरपुर गढीको एकदम ठुलो भूमिका छ। त्यहाँबाट मकवानपुर राज्यबाट भागेर तत्कालीन राजा र भनौँ न दिग्बन्धन सेन र मन्त्री कनक सिंह बानिया चाहिँ भागेर हरिहरपुर गढीमा लुकेर बसेका थिए। त्यो हरिहरपुर गढीमा पनि गोर्खाले राइड गरिसक्यो, गोर्खालीहरूले चाहिँ त्यहाँ पनि चाहिँ युद्ध गरिसकेको थियो। उनीहरू भागेर उनीहरू चाहिँ नजिकैको अवध राज्यतिर मीर कासिमसँग चाहिँ सहयोग माग्न जानुभएको थियो त्यतिखेर। भनेपछि नेपाल एकीकरण सन्दर्भमा पनि त्यो अन्तिम पटकको लडाईँ भएको ठाउँ चाहिँ त्यो हाम्रो मकवानपुर राज्यलाई जोड्ने क्रममा चाहिँ अन्तिम पटक भएको ठाउँ पनि हाम्रो हरिहरपुर गढी नै हो।
एकीकरण गर्दै अगाडि बढिरहेको गोर्खाली शक्ति विरुद्ध कान्तिपुरका राजा जयप्रकाश मल्ल विदेशी शक्तिको खोजीमा थिए। उनले बेतियामा रहेका ब्रिटिश काउन्सिलर ग्लाडिङलाई ब्रिटिश ईस्ट इन्डिया कम्पनी सरकारबाट आपतकालीन सहायताको लागि आग्रह गरे। गोर्खाली राजा पृथ्वी नारायण शाहले नेपालको आन्तरिक मामिला भएको र यसमा बाह्य हस्तक्षेप नगर्न चिठी लेखे। तर कम्पनी तर्फको सरकारले पृथ्वी नारायणको आग्रहलाई अस्वीकार गर्दै कप्तान जर्ज किनलकको नेतृत्वमा 2400 सेना तथा सहयोगी समूहका साथ नेपाल आक्रमणको लागि ब्रिटिश ईस्ट इन्डिया कम्पनी सरकारले खटाएको भनाई इतिहासमा भेटिन्छ। किनलक पटनाबाट 17 अगस्त 1967 मा हिँडे। तर जब उनीहरू ढुङ्ग्रे बासबाट सिन्धुली गढीको लागि अघि बढ्दै थिए, नेपाली सैन्य टोलीहरूले अगाडि र पछाडि दुवैतिरबाट आकस्मिक आक्रमण गरे। किनलकका थुप्रै सेना मारिन पुगे। पछि 1600 जति घाइते सेना लिएर जनकपुरतिर फर्के र उनले अर्को आक्रमण बागमती नदीको किनारै किनार गर्ने योजना बनाए र निशान हरिहरपुर गढीलाई बनाउने निधो गरे। उनका 700 सेना घाइते थिए, तर पनि उनको दोस्रो सैनिक अभियान 20 सेप्टेम्बर सन् 1767 मा हरिहरपुर गढीका लागि सुरु भयो।
अब यो सिन्धुली गढी चाहिँ आजभन्दा 256 वर्ष अगाडि को यो इतिहास हो। यसमा चाहिँ इस्ट इन्डिया कम्पनीले चाहिँ जयप्रकाश मल्ललाई, काठमाडौँको राजा जयप्रकाश मल्ललाई मद्दतको रूपमा चाहिँ आएको थियो। त्यो बेला चाहिँ पृथ्वीनारायण शाहको चाहिँ युनिफिकेसन क्याम्पेन चलिरहेको थियो। जयप्रकाश मल्ल डराएर इस्ट इन्डिया कम्पनीसँग टुस माग्यो। त्यो बेला यो ठाउँमा लडाइँ लड्दाखेरि चाहिँ नि पृथ्वीनारायण शाहले पठाउनु भएको वंश गुरुङ, वंशराज पाण्डे, श्रीभद्र उपाध्याय त्यति बेलाका कमान्डरहरू थिए। त्यसलाई 500 चान्चुन गोर्खाली फौजले 3500 4000 इस्ट इन्डिया कम्पनीको फौजले चाहिँ हराएको ठाउँ हो यो। यद्यपि त्यो समयमा इस्ट इन्डिया कम्पनी काठमाडौँ छिरेको भए आज नेपाल रहन्थ्यो रहन्थेन भन्ने कुरामा पनि प्रश्न चिन्ह रहन्छ। त्यसकारण यो गढीको चाहिँ आफ्नो इतिहास छ। र त्यो बेलामा वंशराज पाण्डे मेन कमान्डर, उनले यो सबै यो ठाउँमा चाहिँ नि एउटा फल्स फन्ट्रेज बनाएर यहाँ जस्तो जनावरहरूमा गाई गोरु भेडा सबैमा चाहिँ नि यो सिङहरूमा होइन ढुङ्ग्रो बालेर एउटा फल्स फन्ट्रेज बनाएर देखाएको थियो। यद्यपि त्यो बेला तत्कालीन गोर्खाली फौजमा 500 चान्चुन मात्र ट्रुप्स थियो। अब त्यो बेला चाहिँ नि तिनीहरूलाई यही यो पौवा गढीबाट आक्रमण गरेर उनीहरूलाई परास्त गरे, हराए। त्यो बेला क्याप्टेन किनलोक चाहिँ नि घाइते भयो, अरिङ्गालले टोकेर भने अरू कप्तानहरू चाहिँ नि अन द स्पटै डेड भएको थियो। अनि त्यसलाई चाहिँ बनारसमा गएर क्याप्टेन किनलोक चाहिँ मरे भन्ने छ। उसले पनि आफ्नो क्याप्टेन किनलोकले लेखेको इतिहासहरू पनि, उसले लेखेको इतिहास पनि अब हाम्रै ठम्बेलतिर पनि त्यो किताबहरू पनि पढ्न पाइन्छ। भनेपछि यो गढीको धेरै महत्त्व छ। र यद्यपि यो गढीमा गोर्खाली सेनाले हारेको भए नेपाल रहन्थ्यो रहन्थेन भन्ने चाहिँ प्रश्न चिन्ह
आएन, त्यहाँ ठुलो लडाइँ हुन्छ। पृथ्वीनारायण शाह आफ्नै जेठान त्यहाँ हारिसकेपछि दिग्बन्धन सिंह राजा, उनका मन्त्री फेरि र सेना त्यहाँबाट भागेर कहाँ गए त? हरिहरपुर कोटमा गए, जुन हामी गढी भनिरहेछौँ। त्यहाँ 4-5 महिना बसिसकेपछि मात्रै अनि पृथ्वीनारायण शाहले फेरि यताबाट तपाईँको यो धुलीखेलपट्टिबाट यो चाहिँ यो तिमालकोट, कोट तिमाल भन्ने तपाईँले सुन्नुभएको छ? तिमालकोट, कोट तिमाल, हामी भकुण्डेबेसीबाट पूर्वतिर लाग्यौँ भने एउटा बाटो जान्छ, त्यसलाई तिमालकोट पनि भन्छ, कोट तिमाल पनि। त्यहाँ ठुलो लडाइँ हुन्छ, त्यहाँ धेरै 1 महिना लडाइँ हुन्छ त्यो जित्नलाई। त्यसपछि सिन्धुली गढीमा लडाइँ हुन्छ हाम्रो 2 चोटि। आज सिन्धुली गढीकोमा जित्छ, 3 दिनपछि फेरि उसको सेनाले फेरि हराउँछ गोर्खाले। पृथ्वीनारायण शाह आफै लड्छन् त्यसपछि आएर, 3 दिनपछि आएर त्यो सिन्धुली गढी जिते। त्यसको 2 दिनपछि त्यहाँबाट हरिहरपुर गरेको दरबार पुग्छन् उनी कोटमा। पृथ्वीनारायण शाह आफू अगाडि बसेर हरिहरपुरमा ठुलो लडाइँ हुन्छ र हरिहरपुरको लडाइँमा अब हार्यो, फेरि मकवानपुर सेना हार्यो, राजा भागे, खोडाघाटपट्टि भागे।
किनलक सहितको फौजलाई खाद्यान्नको जिम्मा लिएका जनकपुरका दानदेव चौधरीले समेत गोर्खाली फौजलाई साथ दिएपछि बिरामी परेका किनलक पटना फर्के र उतै देहत्याग गरेको इतिहास रहिआएको छ। यो हरिहरपुर गढीमा मकवानपुरका युवराजसँग खटपट भएको करिब 23 वर्षपछि सोही स्थानमा नै विशाल मकवानपुर राज्यले गोर्खा फौजसँग हार खायो। यसरी नेपालको एकीकरणको अभियानलाई सिन्धुलीको हरिहरपुर गढी क्षेत्रले ठूलो योगदान गरेको इतिहास अझै जीवित रहेको छ। नेपाल अंग्रेज युद्धको दोस्रो चरणमा मेजर जनरल डेभिड अक्टर लोनीको डिभिजनले हरिहरपुर गढी र मकवानपुर दरबार क्षेत्र 2 ठाउँबाट हमला गर्न अगाडि बढेकोमा यो गढीमा पहिला लडाईँ सुरु भएको थियो। अंग्रेज कर्णेलहरू कर्णेल केली र कर्णेल होलले 16 फेब्रुअरी सन् 1915 मा 2 तिरबाट यो गढीमा हमला गर्दा नेपाली सेनाको हार भयो। यो लडाईँ नेपालीले हार्ना साथ नेपालले सुगौली सन्धि गर्न प्रस्ताव पठायो र 2 डिसेम्बर सन् 1816 मा सुगौली सन्धि भयो। त्यसपछि नेपाल अंग्रेज युद्ध अन्त भएको थियो। नेपाल अंग्रेज युद्धको यो अन्तिम लडाईँ समेत थियो। तोप प्रहारको उद्देश्य राखी तयार पारिएको गढीको मध्यभागमा दरबार रहेको छ। आपतकालीन अवस्थाको लागि पानी सञ्चित गर्न बनाइएको ट्याङ्की समेत प्रष्टै देख्न सकिन्छ।
त्यहाँ चाहिँ ठुल्ठुला ढुङ्गाका चाहिँ शिलाहरू कुदेर, होइन, त्यो ढुङ्गा तपाईँ यत्र तपाईँले पाउनुहुन्न। त्यहाँ चाहिँ हजारको सङ्ख्यामा त्यस्ता ढुङ्गाहरू छन्। त्यो ढुङ्गालाई चाहिँ कुदेर मिलाएर एकदम राम्रोसँग पर्खाल बनाएको छ। अत्यन्त प्रोटेक्टिभ वाल त्यहाँको तपाईँले हेर्नुभयो भनेदेखि त्यो चाहिँ एकदम त्यो अहिले पनि मलाई अहिलेको मिलिटरी चान्चुने मिलिटरी आक्रमणबाट पनि त्यो केही हुनेवाला छैन, त्यस्तो किसिमको छ। र खास गरी अब त्यहाँ चाहिँ सिन्धुली गढीमा चाहिँ यो जब इस्ट इन्डिया कम्पनीको सेना हारिसकेपछि क्याप्टेन किनलोकले हरिहरपुर गढीबाट चाहिँ काठमाडौँतिर जान्छु भनेर हरिहरपुर गढीतिर गए। त्यसपछि हाम्रो चाहिँ जङ्गबहादुरको चाहिँ जिजु हजुरबाको पनि हजुरबा चाहिँ रामकृष्ण कुँवरको तैनाथीमा चाहिँ 300-400 गोर्खाली फौजहरू चाहिँ लगेर त्यहाँ एउटा चाहिँ जितपुर भन्ने ठाउँ छ, जितपुरको डाँडामा चाहिँ राखिसकेका थिए। क्याप्टेन किनलोक चाहिँ काठमाडौँ पस्नको लागि हरिहरपुर गढीमा रात बिताए। त्यतिखेर उनी धेरै बिरामी भइसकेका थिए। हरिहरपुर गढीमै फेरि त्यहाँ एउटा शक्ति छ। हरिहरपुर गढीमै पनि त्यो इस्ट इन्डिया कम्पनीका सेनाहरू बिच चाहिँ विद्रोह भयो। आफू बिरामी पनि भयो, यता सेनाको पनि विद्रोह भइसकेको थियो। उनले अनि काठमाडौँ जानको लागि बाटामा रामकृष्ण कुँवरको नेतृत्वमा गोर्खाली फौज पनि भइसकेको थियो। उनी हतोत्साही भइसकेको थिए। त्यहाँबाट उनले चाहिँ के गरे, काठमाडौँ जानलाई चाहिँ उनले चाहिँ त्यहाँबाट छोडे। काठमाडौँ जान सकेनन्। त्यसपछि फर्किएर आए र त्यो फर्किएर आएको हरिहरपुर गढीबाट जब त्यो क्याप्टेन इस्ट इन्डिया कम्पनीको सेना फर्कियो, त्यो फर्किँदा फेरि तर त्यतिखेर ढिलो चाँडो चाहिँ ब्रिटिस इस्ट इन्डिया कम्पनी चाहिँ हारेको कुरो अमेरिकी स्वतन्त्रता सङ्ग्राममा पनि त्यो कुरो चाहिँ रिफ्लेक्ट भयो।
गढी प्रवेशद्वारमा अहिले काठको पुल जस्तो भए पनि गढी सञ्चालनको बेला यसमा फलामको ढोका रहेको थियो। ढोका खुल्दा सोही ढोका नै पुल बनेर आवत जावत गर्न सकिन्थ्यो भने ढोका बन्द हुँदा सो बाटो बन्द हुन्थ्यो र आवत जावत गर्न सकिँदैन थियो। मकवानपुरको राजाको वैकल्पिक गढीको रूपमा चिनिने हरिहर हरिहरपुर गढी किल्ला संरक्षणमा राज्यले समेत चासो देखाएको छ। हरिहरपुर गढी नेपाल र नेपालीका लागि गौरव र प्रतिष्ठाको धुरी हो। दुश्मनले पाइला टेक्न खोज्दा गोर्खाली सेनाले शिर छेदन गरी विजय प्राप्त गरेको इतिहास अझै जीवित नै छ। रणनीतिक महत्व बोकेका यी गढी अनि ऐतिहासिक सैन्य धरोहरमा त्यतिखेर कोरेर बनाइएका ढुङ्गाहरू मूर्तिहरू देख्न सकिन्छ। पुरातात्विक महत्व बोकेको यो गढीको करिब 80% भाग सुरक्षित रहेको देख्न सकिन्छ।
गढी देख्ने बित्तिकै कुनै पनि मान्छेले नेपालको राजनीति, नेपालको सामाजिक एकीकरणका कुराहरूलाई त्यो आफूलाई त्यति रुचि नराख्ने मान्छे पनि यदि त्यो ठाउँमा गएर त्यो स्ट्रक्चर देख्यो भनेदेखि उसले चाहिँ एकपल्ट आफूलाई रिकल गर्छ। मेरो पुर्खाहरूले बिना सित्तीमा बिना चाहिँ त्यो स्वार्थमा राष्ट्रको लागि यसरी गरेका रहेछन्। राष्ट्रसँग त राज्यसँग त त्यतिखेर पनि चुनौती त रहेछ। त्यो चुनौती चाहिँ कुनै अलौकिक शक्तिले, कुनै विदेशी शक्तिले चाहिँ त्यो सामना गर्दैन। त्यो सामना गर्नुपर्ने चाहिँ त्यही व्यक्ति नै रहेछ, त्यही देशको सब्जेक्ट नै रहेछ, त्यही देशको जनता नै रहेछ भनेपछि मेरो पुर्खाले पनि यति कुरो चाहिँ हाम्रो पुर्खाले पनि यति कुरा यत्रो चाहिँ स्ट्रक्चर बनाउन सक्दा रहेछन् भने हाम्रो योगदान त केही पनि रहन्छ अहिले राष्ट्रको लागि, राष्ट्र निर्माणको लागि भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ उसले त्यो फिलिङ गर्छ। अलिकति त्यहाँ जाने बित्तिकै उसको नेसनलिस्टिक फर्वर भन्छ नि, त्यो खालको चाहिँ उसलाई त्यो आउँछ। त्यो अहिले पनि आउँछ।
पाल्पाली राजा मुकुन्द सेनका छोराहरूले राज्य बाँडफाँड गर्दा छोरा लोहङ सेनले नारायणी पूर्वतर्फ राज्य बढाउँदै गएको र पछि त्यही क्षेत्रको राजा भएको इतिहास समेत रहिआएको छ। लोहङ सेनका नाति भनिने हरिहर इन्द्रसेनको नामबाट यो गढी बनाइएको हो भन्ने इतिहास समेत सुन्न पाइन्छ। यो हरिहरपुर गढीबाट राजधानी काठमाडौँ जोड्ने 2वटा बाटो रहेका छन्। काठमाडौँ जोड्ने सबैभन्दा छोटो बाटोको रूपमा यस गढीलाई लिन सकिन्छ। सेन राजाको पालामा यो गढी हुँदै चिसा पानी तर्फ गयो भने काठमाडौँको थानकोटतिर पुगिन्थ्यो भने अर्को बाटो बागमती किनार हुँदै गयो भने काठमाडौँ छोटो दूरीमा पुगिन्थ्यो। भारतबाट कान्तिपुर जोड्ने छोटो बाटोको रूपमा समेत यसलाई लिइन्थ्यो। 1819 सालमा मकवानपुरको राज्यमाथि राजा पृथ्वीनारायण शाहको नेतृत्वको फौजबाट हमला भएको इतिहासमा देख्न सकिन्छ। गोर्खाली फौजहरू हमलाबाट दिग्बन्धन सेनको हार भएको थियो। गढी संरक्षण एवं सम्वर्धनमा हरिहरपुर गढी गाउँपालिकाले पनि ध्यान दिएको पाइन्छ। सोही गढीको नामबाट नामाकरण गरिएको गाउँपालिकाले रणनीतिक इतिहास बोकेको यो किल्ला संरक्षणमा विभिन्न कार्यक्रमहरू सञ्चालन गरेको छ। यो गढीमा गाउँपालिका स्तरीय कार्यक्रम सञ्चालन गर्नुका साथै गढीको भग्नावशेष जोगाउन पूर्वाधार कार्यक्रमहरू समेत राख्दै आइरहेको छ।
यो हरिहरपुर गढी किल्ला जुन छ त्यो 2224 राज्यको पालामा एउटा किल्लाको रूपमा एउटा राजा हरिहर सेन भन्ने राजाले चाहिँ शासन गरेको अवस्था रहेछ र यो किल्लाले पछि अङ्ग्रेजहरूसँग चाहिँ लड्ने क्रममा यो किल्लाले महत्त्वपूर्ण भूमिका खेलेको रहेछ। यो सिन्धुली गढीसँगको लडाइँ पछाडि अङ्ग्रेजको क्याप्टन किन्लकको ग्रुपले फेरि यहाँ आक्रमण गरेको रहेछ। त्यो आक्रमणलाई पनि यहाँबाट विफल बनाएर पठाएको जुन विजय किल्ला भन्ने छ, त्यो विजय किल्ला चाहिँ हरिहरपुरको विजय किल्ला चाहिँ हरिहरपुरबाट प्रवेश गरिसकेपछि विजय किल्लाबाट 1 किलोमिटर माथिको चाहिँ महाभारत रेन्जमा पुगिसके पछाडि त्यहाँबाट चाहिँ धपाउन हाम्रो नेपाली सेनाहरू, गोर्खाली सेनाहरू सफल भएको। पहिले त हरिहरपुर 2224 राज्य हुँदा एउटा राज्य थियो। पछि चाहिँ एकीकृत भइसके पछाडि पनि अङ्ग्रेजहरूसँग लडाइँ लड्दाखेरि यो विजय प्राप्त गरेको किल्लाको रूपमा यहाँ चिनारी सुनिन्छ। विशेष गरी किल्ला हो। त्यो किल्ला चाहिँ पुरानो शासकहरूले राम्रो ठाउँमा बनाएको रहेछ। मानिलिउँ भौगोलिक रूपले चाहिँ हामीले मकानपुरलाई तलतिर मधेसको फाँटलाई र मास्तिर हिमाली महाभारतको रेन्ज, हिमालको टुप्पो देख्न सकिन्छ। जताततै चारैतिर पूर्व मेचीदेखि पश्चिम महाकाली, उत्तर दक्षिण, पूर्व पश्चिम सबै क्षेत्रमा हेर्ने एउटा टापुको रूपमा रहेछ। त्यो चाहिँ सुरक्षित स्थान हो जहाँ बैरीहरूले आक्रमण गर्न नसकिने ठाउँ हो त्यो। त्यसैले त्यो रमणीय ठाउँ छ। त्यो रमणीय ठाउँलाई हामीले संरक्षण र सम्वर्धन गरिराख्यो भने पर्यटकीय क्षेत्रको लागि धेरै ठुलो कुरा हो। यो हरिहरपुरको गौरवको स्थल
कसैले पनि अब व्हीलचेयरमै चाहिँ बन्जी गर्नुभएको छैन।
अहिले चाहिँ आई एम भेरी एक्साइटेड।
रमाइलो
यस 2 1 बन्जी।
डिफ्रेन्ट आइडियाहरू हुन्छ हाम्रो, जस्तै अब खुट्टामा लगाएर नर्मली जम्प गर्नुपर्ने, उहाँहरूले चाहिँ हामी बडीमा मात्रै लगाएर जम्प गराउँछौँ।
लेट्स गो।
The famous The Last Resort, offering adventurous thrill over Bhotekosi River in Sindhupalchok district of central Nepal. From the launch pad, a suspension bridge over the river, a free fall 160 meters down the gorge. This bridge had been the launch pad for the courageous and adventure seekers for years. But on this day, the jump was not just about adrenaline rush, but also about defiance, about breaking the barriers. Dilip, a fierce advocate for inclusive tourism, has spent years pushing boundaries, paragliding, ziplining, even bungee jumping without a chair.
अपङ्गता भइसके पछाडी म आफूलाई कसरी रिफ्रेश बनाउने त, म आफै चाहिँ कसरी ह्याप्पी हुन्छु भनेर आफैले आफैलाई बुझ्दाखेरि चाहिँ मैले घुम्दा ट्राभलहरू गर्दा एडभेन्चरहरू गर्दा अझ म बढी आफै खुसी भएको पाएँ। अनि त्यस पछाडि चाहिँ मलाई मैले प्याराग्लाइडिङहरू गरेँ। प्याराग्लाइडिङहरू गरिसके पछाडि बन्जी पनि गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने लाग्यो। अनि मैले बन्जी गरेँ। बन्जी गरेपछि होइन अब यो बन्जीलाई पनि एकचोटि व्हीलचेयरमा पनि बन्जी गर्नुपर्छ हैन। नेपालमा म चाहिँ अपङ्गता भएका साथीहरूले चाहिँ एडभेन्चरकोमा चाहिँ अलिक पछाडि देखिने, उहाँहरू खासै त्यति धेरै एडभेन्चरहरू गर्नलाई त्यस्तो खेलहरू खेल्नलाई डराउने, यस्तो हुन्छ उस्तो हुन्छ भन्ने उहाँहरूको चाहिँ मेन्टालिटी पनि थियो। र त्यो मेन्टालिटीलाई पनि चिर्नुपर्छ मैले। यो सकिन्छ, हामीले पनि खेल्न सक्छौँ, गर्न सक्छौँ। र एउटा चाहिँ समावेशी पर्यटनलाई पनि यो एउटा वकालत पनि हुन्छ। नेपाल सरकार लगायत सम्बन्धित निकायलाई यो वकालतको पनि एडभोकेसी पनि गर्न सकिन्छ भन्ने उद्देश्य राखेर मैले चाहिँ बन्जी गरेको।
Sisir, an agricultural entrepreneur living with spinal paralysis, has turned his challenges into advocacy.
म अनेस्टली भन्नुपर्दा यो चाहिँ पुरै अनप्लान्ड नै हो हैन। जति पनि मेरो लाइफमा म जति पनि एडभेन्चर अथवा उ गर्छु हैन, त्यति धेरै प्लान गरेर चाहिँ गर्दिम भनेपछि गर्दिम भन्ने टाइपले चाहिँ यसको लागि चाहिँ म विशेष धन्यवाद हाम्रो दिलीप सरलाई म दिन चाहन्छु है। उहाँले मलाई थाहा नै नदिकन ल आज जाम भनेर भन्नुभयो। मैले आज भोलि हामी बन्जी जम्प गर्दैछौँ भनेर हिजो दोलालघाट आइपुगेपछि, हामी काठमाडौँबाट हिँडेको मान्छे दोलालघाट आइपुगेपछि थाहा पाएको। सो अब गरौँ न त, आइसक्यो भनेर चाहिँ हैन एउटा अनुभव पनि हुन्छ लाइफमा। हामी जस्तो अपाङ्गता भएको व्यक्तिले पनि गर्न सकिन्छ है भन्ने टाइपले हैन। अनि त्यहाँबाट अरूलाई मोटिभेट गर्नलाई साथसाथै अब आफ्नो पनि एउटा रिफ्रेसमेन्टको लागि चाहिँ अब आज हामी बन्जी जम्प गर्न जाँदैछौँ।
Together, the goal was clear: to inspire thousands and redefine what people with disabilities can achieve. A wheelchair bungee jump was no ordinary feat. It demanded innovation, precision, and absolute commitment. The team designed a secure rigging system, checked every bolt and knot, ensuring the wheelchairs and harnesses could withstand the extreme forces.
सेटअप अब खासै त्यस्तो डिफ्रेन्ट त होइन, उहाँहरूको अब स्पेसल अलिकति समस्या भएर त्यो अनुसारको सेफ तरिकाले गर्ने अर्को डिफ्रेन्ट आइडियाहरू हुन्छ हाम्रो। जस्तै अब खुट्टामा लाएर नर्मली जम्प गर्नुपर्ने, उहाँहरूले चाहिँ हामी बडीमा मात्रै लाएर जम्प गराउँछौँ। सो खुट्टामा चाहिँ केही पनि प्रेसर पर्दैन, ढाडमा पनि कम प्रेसर पर्छ। सो त्यसरी गर्दा चाहिँ उहाँलाई एकदम कम्फर्टेबल हुन्छ। अनि प्लस अब उहाँले अब तल गएर तान्नुपर्ने हुक गर्नुपर्ने कुराहरू हुन्छ, सकेसम्म उहाँहरूले ट्राई गर्नु भएन भने हामी एकजना रेस्क्यु स्ट्यान्ड बाई हुन्छ। अनि त्यसको लागि चाहिँ हामी अलिक प्रिपेयर गरेर गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। अब सेफ्टीको हिसाबले अलिकति डिफ्रेन्ट तरिका चाहिँ अप्नाउनु पऱ्यो हामीले।
This was not a stunt, it was proof that adventure can be made accessible.
34औं अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय अपाङ्गता दिवस हो। सो यो अपाङ्गता दिवसकै दिनमा चाहिँ केही एउटा चाहिँ एडभेन्चर गरौँ हैन। अब कसैले पनि अब व्हिलचेयरमै चाहिँ बन्जी गर्नुभएको छैन, त्यसको लागि पनि एउटा चाहिँ पहिलोचोटि गर्दै हेर अरू साथीहरूलाई पनि एउटा चाहिँ इन्करेज गरौँ भन्ने चाहना हो खास।
At the edge of the platform, silence fell. Dilip rolled forward first. The count began.
Happy International Disability Day, all of you.
A symbol of confinement transformed into a vessel of freedom, probably the first ever wheelchair bungee jump in Nepal.
Promax bungee! खासै अहिले चाहिँ पुरा म नर्मल चाहिँ एकदम चिलमा छु हैन। अब यहाँ हामफाल्दाखेरि चाहिँ कस्तो हुन्छ, म हामफालिसकेपछि चाहिँ अनुभव सुनाउँछु। अहिले चाहिँ आई एम भेरी एक्साइटेड। आई एम गोइङ टु डु समथिङ फर माइसेल्फ हैन। आई एम गोइङ टु डु माई फर्स्ट बन्जी अफ माई लाइफ। So I'm very excited.
Then came Cecir's turn. With equal determination, he embraced the drop.
Well, let's go.
His leap cemented the moment, not a solo feat, but a shared victory.
Yes. उहाँले आर यु रेडी भन्नुभयो, मैले ठिक छ म रेडी भने मैले आँखा चिम्म गरिदिएँ। अनि त्यसपछि ठ्याक्कै उहाँले 1 2 3 जम्प भन्नुभयो, उहाँले पुस गरिदिनु भयो मलाई। म पुस गरेको आँखा चिम्मको चिम्म तल पुगेपछि ठ्याक्क त्यो डोरीले तान्छ नि, तानेर माथि आएपछि त्यो समय चाहिँ मैले यस्तो फिल गरेँ कि म बाँचेँ हैन। मसँग अब चाहिँ सबै चिजहरू मसँग फेरि पनि छ र मलाई चाहिँ एकदमै आनन्द त्यो टाइमको त्यो 2 सेकेन्ड 3 सेकेन्डको एउटा चाहिँ ह्याप्पिनेस, एउटा त्यो रिफ्रेस, एउटा त्यो फिलले चाहिँ एकदमै ह्याप्पी दियो क्या मलाई। इनर्जी भित्रदेखि मसँग भइरहेको सिद्धिरहेको एउटा चाहिँ इनर्जीलाई ठ्याक्क दियो। त्यो झर्दाखेरिको चाहिँ मेरो माइन्ड पुरै रिसेट भइदियो जस्तो भयो क्या। केही पनि छैन, म एकदमै एकदम निल, मसँग केही पनि छैन, रित्तियो सकियो। मैले सबै चिज छोडिदिएर म झरिसकेको थिएँ, हाम फालिसकेको थिएँ। तर पुगेर ठ्याक्क तानेर ल्याउँदाखेरि चाहिँ त्यो एउटा मुभमेन्ट चाहिँ मेरो लाइफको चाहिँ एकदम इन्जोयफुल मुभमेन्ट हो, जसले चाहिँ मलाई चाहिँ आजको दिनसम्म अझ धेरै उत्प्रेरणाहरू जगाएको एउटा मुभमेन्ट हो। त्यो मुभमेन्ट चाहिँ मेरो लागि एकदम मेमोरियल पनि छ।
Dilip and Cecir's jump was more than a thrill. It was a loud scream demanding change, a call for accessible tourism.
एक्सेसिबिलिटीकै कुराहरू हुन्छ क्या हजुरको। जस्तो अब मैले पोखरामा प्याराग्लाइडिङ गर्दाखेरि, कायाकिङ गर्दाखेरि हैन, अप्पर मुस्ताङ चाहिँ हजुरको चाहिँ त्यो अफ रोड गाडीमै जाँदाखेरिको कुराहरूमा चाहिँ अलिकति एक्सेसेबल, अलिकति हामीलाई चाहिँ पहुँचयुक्त चाहिँ ठाउँहरू भएदेखि अलिकति सजिलो हुन्थ्यो भनौँ न। अब यो झोलुङ्गे पुलहरूबाट गरिन्छ हैन, त्यहाँ चाहिँ हल्का ऱ्याम्प के जस्तो व्हिलचेयरकै लागि पनि एउटा स्ट्र्याप राख्दाखेरि त काठको एउटा भनौँ न त्यो फ्लोरिङ जस्तै टाइपले गरिदियो भने त हेल्प गर्ने, असिस्ट गर्नेलाई पनि सजिलो हुने अनि हामीलाई पनि सजिलो हुने चाहिँ हुन्छ।
Nepal's newly elected House of Representatives convenes first session. Home Minister tables 3 ordinances as lawmakers promise reform. RSP President Lamichhane apologizes in the parliament for state discrimination against Dalits, says justice will uphold apology. SEE exam kicks off, center-based grading system introduced, results expected within a month. Tehran warns of broader attacks after Trump says US will hit Iran extremely hard in coming weeks. Artemis 2 crew rockets toward moon. NASA embarks on first manned moon mission in over 50 years. And Trivan Army club cruises to comfortable win in the ongoing PM's Cup. Sudur Pashchim secures a narrow win. Hello there, I'm Smituki Singh Thamang. Welcome to NTV World News Hour, coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours. The news in detail. The first session of Nepal's House of Representatives HOR following the March 5 elections was held today at the under-construction Federal Parliament building in Singapore. Arjun Narsingh Casey, who presided over the session as the senior-most member, read letters from the President summoning the parliamentary session and regarding the appointment of the Prime Minister and formation of the Council of Ministers. The session was attended by Prime Minister Balendra Shah, members of the Council of Ministers, former PM and NCP coordinator Pashupatinath, Rashtriya Swatantra Party President Rabi Lamichhane, Shram Sanskriti Party Chair Harkaraj Rai, senior Nepali Congress and CP and UML leaders and other newly elected lawmakers. The 275-member HOR comprises 182 from RSP, 38 from Nepali Congress, 25 from CP and UML, 17 from NCP, 7 from Shram Sanskriti Party, 5 from Rashtriya Prajatantra Party and 1 independent member. The next HOR meeting is scheduled for Sunday. Rashtriya Swatantra Party Chairman Rabi Lamichhane has apologized to the Dalit community for the state's historical discrimination. Chairman Lamichhane, addressing the first meeting of the House of Representatives after the elections, said that the value of the apology will now be ensured through justice. Lamichhane also described the discrimination endured by Dalits not as a social mistake but as a systematic crime. His apology came on behalf of the government led by his party. We'll cover his statement along with other parliamentary activities in our Issue of the Day segment later in the bulletin. The Secondary Education Examination SEE has kicked off from today across 1,966 examination centers across Nepal. According to the National Examinations Board, a total of 512,421 students are appearing for the examination. The National Education Board has decided to grade Secondary Education Examination SEE answer sheets at the respective examination centers across the country. The board has made arrangements to ensure that marking for each subject is completed at the center within 3 days of the exam's conclusion. Officials said the goal is to publish results within a month, which would allow SEE results to be released by mid-May. In addition, 23 students from every school in Japan are setting the examinations. The SEE exams will conclude on April 12. Now, in international, Iran has warned of broader and crushing attacks in response to Trump's latest threat to hit Iran extremely hard over the coming weeks. A spokesperson from Iran's military says US-Israeli attacks on the country have been insignificant, claiming the two countries have incomplete information about Tehran's military capabilities and equipment. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump says the United States is nearing completion of its objectives in the war against Iran and hailed American forces for scoring overwhelming victories. Trump added the military campaign launched more than a month ago alongside allied forces had made significant gains in degrading Iran's military capabilities. Astronauts on the Artemis 2 mission are orbiting the Earth and carrying out checks before setting course to the Moon. If all goes to the plan, the spacecraft will head out of Earth's orbit on Friday. While the astronauts won't land on the Moon's surface during their 10-day mission, they will be the first people to leave low Earth orbit since the Apollo 17 Moon mission in 1972. The mission will have the astronauts orbit the Moon to validate life support systems, deep space navigation, and manual piloting techniques essential for future landings. We'll look more into this historic Moon mission in our segment's cover story later in the bulletin. Nepal's departmental team Trivandrum Club and Sudur Paschim Province registered victories in the ongoing Men's Prime Minister Cup today, with one match ending in a dominant chase and the other going down to a tense finish. In Janakpur, Trivandrum Club delivered a commanding performance to defeat Madhya Province by 6 wickets in the 24th match of the tournament. Chasing a modest target of 185, Army reached 185 at the loss of 4 wickets in just 29.2 overs, finishing the game with a massive 124 balls to spare. In another match held at Birganj, Sudur Paschim Province held its nerve to secure a narrow 2-wicket win over Gandaki Province. After being set a target of 191, Sudur Paschim reached 191 at the loss of 8 wickets in 39.2 overs, sealing victory with 64 balls remaining. The results add further momentum to the PM Cup, with teams jostling for position as the tournament progresses. Nepal's newly elected House of Representatives of Nepal has begun its first session with key political developments, including the tabling of major ordinances by Home Minister Sudan Gurung and an apology addressing historic discrimination against the Dalit community. Lawmakers across parties have set the tone for governance, accountability and reform as debates intensify over leadership roles and legislative priorities. With crucial elections for Speaker and National Assembly positions ahead, the new parliament signals an active and closely watched political transition. More on this in our Issue of the Day segment after this break. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World and this is the News Hour. Now we're turning to our issue of the day. The first session of the Nepal's House of Representatives, the lower house of federal parliament, convened today following the March 5 elections. During the session, Nepal's Home Minister Sudan Gurung presented 3 ordinances. The presented ordinances are Citizenship First Amendment Ordinance 2082, House of Representatives Member Election First Amendment Ordinance 2082, and Nepal's Special Service Third Amendment Ordinance 2082. Home Minister Gurung said that Nepal's Special Service Third Amendment Ordinance was issued in order to keep National Investigation Department under the Home Ministry from the Office of the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Rashtriya Swatantra Party Chairman Ravi Lamichhane publicly apologized in the House of Representatives today for the state's long-standing discrimination against the Dalit community. Speaking from the podium, Lamichhane said the value of the apology would now be upheld through justice.
विदेशको दलित समुदायलाई मैले आज सार्वजनिक क्षमा याचनाका साथ केही भन्नु छ। यो सरकार शताब्दीदेखिको विभेदको, अन्यायको, अत्याचारको इतिहाससँग पहिलो पटक सामूहिक र सार्वजनिक माफी माग्दैछ, त्यो पनि यो सदनबाट।
At the first meeting of Nepal's newly elected House of Representatives, leaders from all major parties and independent lawmakers addressed key national issues, including government accountability, electoral reforms, social justice and development priorities. Lawmakers stressed the need for timely action, transparency and respect for the rule of law, while underlining the importance of honouring the public mandate and protecting citizens' rights. The session set the tone for the new government's agenda, emphasising cooperation, oversight and responsiveness to the country's most pressing challenges. Let's take a look.
प्रतिपक्ष दलहरुलाई मेरो विनम्र आग्रह छ, हामी माथि 24 घण्टा निगरानी गरिदिनु होला। शासनमा तपाईहरुको लामो अनुभव छ, हाम्रा कमजोरी उजागर गरिदिनु होला, गल्ती देखाइदिनु होला। यदि हामीले बाटो बिरायौं भने सच्याइदिनु होला। यदि हामी जनताबाट टाढा हुन खोज्यौं भने हामीलाई जनताको आवाज सम्झाइदिनु होला। हामीबाट अहंकार नबढोस्, हामीमा कुनै अहंकार नछाओस्, हाम्रा निर्णयहरू एकतर्फ नहुन्। लोकतन्त्रमा सत्ता पक्ष र प्रतिपक्ष प्रतिस्पर्धी मात्र होइनन्, एक अर्काका पूरक पनि हुन्। एकले काम गर्छ, अर्कोले निगरानी गर्छ, एकले योजना बनाउँछ, अर्कोले परख गर्छ।
यो संसदले एक ढिक्का रहेर गर्नुपर्ने एउटा प्रधान काम भनेको नागरिक पंक्तिमा आशा र विश्वासलाई निरन्तर जगाउने र निरन्तर जोगाउने पनि हो। बितेको 35 वर्षमा देशमा केही पनि भएन भन्ने निराशाको भाष्य जनजनमा पुगेको छ, पुर्याइएको छ। यसलाई हामीले चिर्नु सक्नुपर्छ।
कुन उद्देश्य प्राप्तिका लागि विद्यार्थी तथा पेशाकर्मीहरूको संगठित हुने मौलिक अधिकारलाई बलात् खोसिँदैछ? कुन उद्देश्यका लागि मिडिया ट्रायल, साइबर आतंकको सृजना गरिँदैछ? सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, निश्चय पनि भविष्यले यी प्रश्नहरूको सही जवाब दिँदै जानेछ। हामी एउटा नेपाली कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी लोकतान्त्रिक आचरण, व्यवहार, पद्धतिमा विश्वास गर्छ, संविधानमा विश्वास गर्छ। हामी रचनात्मक रूपले सरकारलाई सहयोग गर्न तयार छौं। त्यसैगरी आलोचनात्मक प्रतिपक्षको रूपमा हामीले भूमिका खेल्नेछौं।
जनताले सोझै चुन्न पाउने प्रत्यक्ष कार्यकारीको चुनाव गर्नेतर्फ सरकारको नीति तथा कार्यक्रम अगाडि बढोस्। यदि सरकारले द्वितीय नजिकको सरकारले त्यो कुरा अगाडि सार्छ भने त्यसमा हामी सबैले सहयोग गर्नुपर्दछ।
कसले कति डिग्री हासिल गर्यो, कसले पीएचडी गर्यो, त्यो महत्त्वपूर्ण कुरा होइन, तर त्यसले सिकेको ज्ञान र सिप हाम्रो समाजका लागि कार्य भयो या भएन त्यो महत्त्वपूर्ण कुरा हो। पुरानो पाठ्यक्रम घोगन्ते शिक्षा र बेरोजगारी उत्पादन गर्ने थलो र प्रणालीको देशको भविष्यलाई अन्धकारतिर धकेलिरहेको छ। त्यसैले शिक्षा नीति र पाठ्यक्रमको आमूल परिवर्तन हुन्छ भन्ने कुरा म आशावादी छु।
नेपालमा एउटा छुट्टै र शक्तिशाली विज्ञान प्रविधि अनुसन्धान तथा नव प्रवर्तन मन्त्रालय खोल्नुपर्छ। त्यसलाई चलाउन सक्षम विज्ञहरू राख्नुपर्छ।
The first session of the Federal Parliament began today with Arjun Narsingh Kesi presiding as acting speaker. It opened with the observance of a moment of silence for Gen Z protest martyrs, followed by party leaders' addresses. While opposition reactions were mixed, leaders appeared optimistic about delivering effective governance. Sabika Shrestha brings a report.
We are outside the multipurpose hall of the Federal Parliament building, which is under construction inside Singhadarwar. Today, the first session of Federal Parliament is set to begin following the House of Representatives election held on March 5. Everyone is excited for the first session of Federal Parliament. The decisions, the policies, whatever is coming ahead, people are eagerly waiting for this. The session held at the multipurpose hall of the under-construction Federal Parliament building commenced with a moment of silence in tribute to martyrs, including those who lost their lives during the recent Gen Z protest movement. The session was presided over by Arjun Narsinkesi, the senior-most lawmaker acting as a Speaker of the House of Representatives for today's proceedings. Following the tribute, party leaders addressed the House outlining their priorities and expectations from the new Parliament. Leaders across the political spectrum were seen enthusiastic and optimistic, expressing commitment to deliver more effective governance and accelerated legislative work. However, the session also witnessed the mixed reactions from opposition parties, with some raising concerns over procedural clarity and the government's immediate agenda, while others stressed the need for stronger accountability mechanisms from the outset. Speaking on today's business plans, UML leader Kshitiz Thebe emphasized the importance of a smooth and structured start to parliamentary proceedings, highlighting institutional stability and cooperation among parties as key priorities.
पहिलो निर्णय नै हाम्रो गम्भीर असहमति छ। देश द्वन्द्वमा लग्यो, प्रतिशोध साध्यो, देशमा कोही पनि सुरक्षित छैनन् भन्ने सन्देश दियो, निषेधको राजनीति गर्यो, यसले सही बाटो लिएको छैन। दोस्रो निर्णयमा नि मेरो असहमति छ। वृद्ध भत्ताको विषय पनि उठेको छ। हाम्रो देश आत्मनिर्भर देश होइन, त्यो कारणले यो गरिबी नहटिन्जेलसम्म हाम्रो वृद्ध भत्तालाई बरु अझै व्यवस्थित गरेर बढाउनु पर्नेमा उमेरलाई बढाउने कुरो त्यो त्यति राम्रो छैन। यसलाई पनि पुनर्मूल्याङ्कन अनुरोध गर्न चाहन्छु।
Meanwhile, Rashtriya Swatantra Party's Ranju Darsana said the focus would be on setting a clear direction for governance, with an emphasis on faster decision-making and tangible outcomes through upcoming sittings. It was more of a technical day because the formal House, the tabling of the bills have not yet properly started. For that, we will have to do a lot of homeworks, of course. And I think from the next day, not even the next day, next day, the formal House will begin, where we'll also get opportunity to raise voices, to raise issues of our constituencies and of our people. The first session has set the tone for the new parliament, with high public expectations for decisive policy making, improved service delivery and meaningful political consensus in the days ahead. All eyes are now on the House as the first federal parliament session gets underway, with high expectation for decisive policies and good governance ahead. Sabika Shrestha with camera person Samir Thapa reporting for NTV World.
As the first session of the House of Representatives convened today, we asked the new parliamentarians how their experience was on the first session of the parliament. Let's have a look at what they say in our public poll segment.
I'm honored for the voters, respective voters of my constituency, that I'm going first today, so I'm feeling much more responsible. Yeah, I'm feeling excited, but the thing is that I think the democratic values should be maintained in the parliament.
मलाई त आजको बैठक चाहिँ नै अब राम्रो रह्यो। सुरुमा हाम्रो पार्टीको अध्यक्ष नेकपा एमालेको अध्यक्ष पूर्व प्रधानमन्त्रीलाई र अनि त्यो पूर्व गृहमन्त्री रमेश लेखकलाई चाहिँ नि गिरफ्तार गरिएको विषयमा हाम्रो पार्टीको तर्फबाट मान्य गुरु बरालले राख्नु भएको थियो।
अहिले धेरै जना नयाँ पार्लियामेन्टहरू हुँदै गर्दाखेरि यो सुरुवात हुँदै गर्दा धेरैमा उत्साह छ। सुशासन र समृद्ध नेपालको त्यो परिकल्पना पूरा हुने पाटोमा सरकारले त्यो कदम पनि सुरु गरिसकेको छ र त्यो पूरा हुने पाटोमा सबैजना मान्यजीहरू विश्वस्त हुनुहुन्छ।
एकदम राम्रो रह्यो, काम गर्नुपर्ने छ भन्ने कुरा छ।
अहिलेसम्म.
Actually, I kind of felt a bit nervous since it was the first day, and since most of the colleagues were there for the first time, we were discussing about it. I was kind of nervous. It was like going to school for the first time. It was encouraging, and I am very glad about the fact, the kind of support we got from the opponent team. And we are looking forward for the regular support throughout our session.
Also, the 20th session of the National Assembly, the upper house of the Federal Parliament, convened from today. In today's meeting, Chairperson Narayan Prasad Dahal read out the letter received from President Ramchandra Paudel regarding summoning of the session. Meanwhile, the meeting decided to hold election for the vice chairperson on April 6. Chair Dahal announced that the election will be conducted in accordance with Rule 8 of the National Assembly Regulations 2018. Dahal also directed Padma Prasad Pandey, Secretary General of the Federal Parliament, to publish the official election schedule. In addition, elections for vacant chairperson positions in various thematic committees of the National Assembly have been set for April 7. Meanwhile, the next meeting of the National Assembly is scheduled to take place in April 5. Rashtriya Swatantra Party RSP has decided to nominate Deputy Chairperson DP Aryal as the Speaker of Nepal's House of Representatives. Party spokesperson Manish Jha said the party's parliamentary meeting today unanimously approved the proposal presented by RSP President Ravi Lamichhane. Aryal was elected as a lawmaker from Kathmandu constituency number 9. Although the RSP holds a majority, the party's parliamentary group decided to nominate a candidate following the proper procedure. The election of the House Speaker has been scheduled for Sunday, April 5. The next meeting of the House of Representatives is also scheduled for 11 a.m. on the same day. And that wraps up our issue of the day. Now we move to our cover story of the day. In a moment of sharp global contrast, NASA has launched Artemis 2 toward the moon, while US President Donald Trump escalates tensions with Iran. As the mission symbolizes unity and progress for humanity, rising geopolitical strains highlight a starkly different reality on Earth. More on this in our cover story. And now we turn into our cover story of the day. Hours before US President Donald Trump threatened Iran to take back to Stone Age, the country's space agency NASA launched the first crewed mission to the moon. The Artemis 2, carrying 4 astronauts, is almost reaching the moon, while the US military might start encircle the waters around Iran. While the NASA mission, claimed as one for all of humanity, advocates unity, the other visibly targets humanity. Dikshavasti breaks this down.
At 3:50 a.m. Eastern Time, NASA's Space Launch System rocket launched the Artemis 2 mission from Kennedy Space Center, Florida in the US. 4 astronauts are flying to the moon for the second time ever in the history of human civilization. However, unlike Apollo 17 that had landed on the moon, the Artemis 2 will only loop around it. During the 10-day trip, the capsule will travel over 700,000 miles. Humanity has gone this far since 1972. That was Apollo 17, the last time anyone walked on the moon 52 years ago. Since then, no human has left the Earth orbit until now. This mission is historic for 3 reasons. First, a woman, Christina Koch, is part of the mission. Second, the first colored astronaut, Victor Glover, sits in the capsule. Third, a non-American, Jeremy Hansen from Canada, is among the 4 astronauts. And one of the astronauts, Hansen, points out we are going for all humanity. On the same day, President Trump spoke about Iran.
We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks
We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong.
President Trump's statement comes in stark contrast to the NASA mission. One mission is for unity, while the other is just against unity. Astronaut turned U.S. Senator Mark Kelly pins the contradiction.
The world. Well, it's quite the contrast, right? On one hand, we're doing something that's very positive, advances, I think, us as a species, right? Especially as a country, right? We're doing something positive for humanity. I'm in disagreement with the president on...
Artemis took decades and dozens of countries to build. It represents what humans can do together. The stone is threatened by Trump. That takes seconds to say. But the ignorance of its consequences and how the world has to suffer from it. Almost within 24 hours, same leadership, just the contradicting steps that capture global attention. Diksha Awasthi reporting for NTV World.
And that concludes our cover story of the day. On to the remaining updates now. Nepal's Kathmandu District Court has granted police permission to detain former Prime Minister, CPN UML Chairman as well, KP Sharma Oli, for 2 days as part of an ongoing investigation. Authorities had initially requested a 10-day extension, but the court approved a shorter detention period under Nepal's legal procedures. Oli, who is currently unwell, remains under medical observation, with his statements recorded at a major public hospital in the capital. Both Oli and former Home Minister and Nepali Congress leader Ramesh Lekhak have denied any involvement of political leadership during the September 8 Denjet protest. Meanwhile, the court has also approved a 2-day extension for the detention of Lekhak as investigators continue to examine the high-profile case. The Office of the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers in Nepal has issued new directives to curb rising corruption and strengthen good governance across government institutions. Chief Secretary Suman Rajarial has instructed all ministries and public offices to address irregularities in service delivery, development projects, revenue administration and procurement processes. The directive follows a reform roadmap that includes 100 action plans approved after Prime Minister Balendra Shah assumed office. Authorities have been urged to eliminate policy-level and institutional corruption, enforce transparency and ethical conduct, and ensure efficient, citizen-friendly public services. The government has also emphasized prioritizing vulnerable groups and increasing oversight through inspections and accountability measures for office heads. The government has announced that the Hello Government service will now operate 24 hours a day, aiming to provide immediate solutions to public grievances. The move is part of a broader push to make government services more efficient, responsive and citizen-centric nationwide. Under the initiative, all complaints, suggestions and service requests will be addressed promptly, with authorities working around the clock to ensure timely responses. Government emphasizes that the 24-hour service marks a step towards greater transparency and accountability, allowing citizens to raise issues and receive feedback at any time. Officials added the system is designed to reduce delays, cut bureaucratic hurdles, and improve overall citizen satisfaction. The initiative forms a key part of the government's 100-point governance reform agenda aimed at modernizing administration and improving citizen services across Nepal. Nepal's government has ordered all ministries and agencies to intensify anti-corruption measures after international reports highlighted worsening graft rankings. The directive follows nationwide youth-led protests last year and elections that brought good governance to the top of the agenda. Officials are instructed to prioritize vulnerable groups, enforce transparency and ensure public services are delivered without misuse of authority. Any detected misconduct will trigger immediate investigation with agency heads held directly accountable. The Prime Minister's office says ending corruption is essential to restoring public trust and delivering clean governance. A group of foreign returnees from Nepal's northern Darjeeling have launched a cooperative farming initiative starting with 120 pigs to create local employment. They also plan to expand into fish, poultry, livestock and vegetable production to promote self-reliance. This initiative has enabled the youth to become self-employed and earn income within the country, while also sending a message that united youths can achieve success at home. Subheksha Rajak with our local correspondent Shiva Silwal from Darjeeling dives deeper on this.
In Salyantar of Tripura Sundari Rural Municipality, Northern Darjeeling, a group of returnee youths is rewriting the story of employment. 58 young men who came back from foreign labor markets have joined hands to form a cooperative determined to create jobs in their own village rather than abroad. Their mission is clear: to transform agriculture into a sustainable source of income. With rented land and an investment of nearly 40 lakh rupees, the cooperative has already begun pig farming, raising 120 pigs in the first phase. Plans are underway to expand into poultry, fish, goats, buffaloes for dairy and vegetable farming.
करिब बेच्ने बेला 7-8 महिना भित्रमा बेच्ने बेला हुँदो रहेछ। अब हामीले मार्केट खोज्दै छौं यो बिजनेसको लागि। अलि राम्रो मार्केट भयो भने कन्टिन्यू दिन पाइन्छ कि भनेर। अब यो बुंगुर फार्म को लगानी भनेको अहिले हामी बढाउँदै छौं। अहिले सम्म अराउन्ड 40 लाख जति लगानी भएको छ। यसलाई बढाउने कर्मिक रूपमा बढाउने उद्देश्य छ हाम्रो। यसमा बुंगुर मात्रै नभएर अब कुखुरा, बाख्राहरू, लोकल कुखुरा, माछाहरूको पनि प्लान छ हाम्रो बिस्तारै। अहिले हामी नयाँ भएको कारणले 1 by 1 अहिले बुंगुर मात्रै छ। बिस्तारै फार्म बढाउँदै जाने हाम्रो उद्देश्य हो।
The youth say their campaign is driven by the belief that the sweat shed abroad should instead be invested at home to make the country prosperous. Their effective effort is not only providing self-employment, but also sending a powerful message that united youths can achieve meaningful change within Nepal. Local governments have welcomed the initiative, offering support in marketing and promising policies that encourage youth self-employment. Representatives emphasize that such ventures can help keep young people in their villages, contributing to rural development and reducing dependency on foreign employment.
सँग समन्वय गरेर युवा साथीहरूलाई, विदेशमा जाने साथीहरूलाई यही छ, तपाईको चाहिँ दुःख गर्न पर्यो, मिहिनेत गर्न पर्यो, आफ्नो परिवारसँग बसेर कम्तीमा 50-60 हजार आम्दानी गर्न सक्ने यही छ भनेर हामीले सचेतनामूलक कार्यक्रमहरू पनि दिइरहेको छ।
This cooperative stands as a credible example of accountability and resilience. By turning experience gained abroad into enterprise at home, Darjeeling's youth are weaving a new narrative of prosperity rooted in their own soil.
On World Autism Awareness Day, Nepal joined the global call led by the United Nations since 2007 to promote the rights, dignity and full participation of people with autism. But challenges remain in access to care and education. Siksha Batrai with Pramila Bandari brings this report.
In recent years, Nepal has made progress in recognizing autism. The condition was formally included under the Disability Rights Act in 2017, helping increase public awareness and policy attention. However, implementation remains weak. Many children with autism are still unable to access quality education, healthcare, and specialized support services guaranteed by the Constitution. Parents face financial and emotional pressure. While the government provides social security allowances through disability identity cards, services such as behavioral therapy, speech therapy, and individualized education programs are still limited. The situation is even more difficult in rural areas where families are often forced to travel to cities in search of basic support.
त्यो बेलामा चाहिँ अलि कम देखिन्थ्यो किनभने सचेतना थिएन अनि कति चाहिँ अटिजमको पहिचान पनि थिएन र सचेतना बढ्दै जाँदाखेरि अहिले पछिल्लो समयमा चाहिँ अटिजम एकदमै बढेको देखाउँछ त्यसमा चाहिँ साच्चै अटिजम बच्चा जन्मिने क्रम पनि बढेको छ भने सचेतना नि बढेको छ तर अटिजमको अवस्थाको कुरा गर्नुपर्दा अझै पनि यसलाई अटिजम भएका बालबालिकाहरू चाहिँ शिक्षा स्वास्थ्यबाट वञ्चितै हुनुहुन्छ हैन राज्य स्तरबाट चाहिँ यसलाई मूलधारमा ल्याएर उहाँहरूको शिक्षा स्वास्थ्य निशुल्कको व्यवस्था संविधानमा भनिएको छ, पोलिसीहरूमा छ, तर त्यसलाई चाहिँ कार्यान्वयन पछि एकदमै फितलो छ र जति कामहरू भइरहेछ सङ्घ सामाजिक सङ्घ संस्था र विभिन्न व्यक्तिहरू र प्राइभेटबाट काम भइरहेछ।
Autism is a neurodevelopmental condition that affects communication, behavior, and social interaction. While it cannot be completely cured, early diagnosis and intervention can notably improve a person's ability to function and integrate into society. Common signs often appear between 18 months to 3 years of age. This may include difficulty in eye contact, delayed speech, limited social interaction, repetitive behaviors, and resistance to change. However, symptoms vary widely from person to person. According to Nepal's 2021 census, just under 5,000 individuals are recorded as having autism, but experts believe the actual number could be significantly higher, with many cases still undiagnosed or unreported. Estimates suggest that up to 300,000 people in Nepal may be on the autism spectrum, including tens of thousands with more severe conditions. On this World Autism Awareness Day, advocates stress that awareness alone is not enough. Stronger implementation of policies, expansion of services, and inclusive systems are essential to ensure that no one is left behind.
But before that, let's have a quick recap of our major stories. Nepal's newly elected House of Representatives convenes first session. Home Minister tables 3 ordinances as lawmakers promise reform. RSP President Lamichhane apologizes in the parliament for state discrimination against Dalits, says justice will uphold apology. SEE exam kicks off, center-based grading system introduced, results expected within a month. Tehran warns of broader attacks after Trump says US will hit Iran extremely hard in coming weeks. Artemis 2 crew rockets toward moon. NASA embarks on first manned moon mission in over 50 years. And Trivanami Club cruises to comfortable win in the ongoing PM Cup. UN Chief Antonio Guterres has warned that the Middle East conflict risks spiraling into a wider war as he calls for an immediate halt to US-Israeli strikes on Iran and Iranian attacks on its neighbors.
This war continues, human suffering grows, the scale of devastation grows, indiscriminate attacks grow, the target of civilians and civilian infrastructure grows, and the perils to our world grow. We are on the edge of a wider war that would engulf the whole Middle East with dramatic impacts around the globe. The conflict is already being felt everywhere.
China says that US and Israeli strikes on Iran are the root cause of the Strait of Hormuz blockade after US President Donald Trump called on affected countries to seize the key waterway. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Mao Ning also addressed the conflict between Afghanistan and Pakistan, saying that Beijing was playing a constructive role in mediating tensions between the two sides.
霍尔木兹海峡通航受阻的根源是美国和以色列对伊朗的非法军事行动。只有停火止战，实现海湾地区的和平稳定，才能从根本上维护国际航道的安全畅通。各方应当共同努力，推动局势降温，防止地区局势动荡对全球经济和能源安全造成更大的影响。
French President Emmanuel Macron's plane has arrived in Seoul for a 2-day state visit, during which he's scheduled in particular to meet with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung. While speaking to journalists upon his arrival, Macron said the war being waged by the United States and Israel against Iran will not resolve the nuclear issue of Tehran's nuclear program in the long term, says calling for in-depth negotiations. He also noted that France is prepared to play a mediating role in facilitating talks between the parties involved. Pakistan has said that the burden of ending its conflict with Afghanistan lay with Kabul as the two sides held preliminary talks to try to end hostilities. The neighbors and one-time allies have been locked in an escalating conflict over claims from Islamabad and Kabul is harboring extremists responsible for cross-border attacks. Negotiations started in Urumqi in northwest China on Wednesday after Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar travelled to Beijing for talks with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi. Pakistan and Afghanistan announced a pause in fighting to mark the end of Ramadan last month at the request of Saudi Arabia, Qatar and Turkey. But sporadic attacks have been reported in remote border areas since the temporary truce ended. A 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck in the Malacca Sea of Indonesian Ternate Island early Thursday, killing at least one person. The quake, which struck at 6:48 local time at a depth of 35 kilometers, sparked tsunami warnings which have since been withdrawn. While the region experiences high levels of seismic activity, some residents said this was one of the strongest earthquakes they have felt in at least the past 6 years. The Hawaii-based Pacific Tsunami Warning Center initially warned that tsunami waves less than 1 feet were possible along the coast of Guam, Japan, Malaysia, Papua New Guinea, the Philippines and Taiwan. The tsunami alert was lifted after 2 hours. A rare and endangered golden monkey was born at Paradise Park on March 17, marking the first successful birth of the species in Belgium. The newborn is reportedly in good health and is being carefully cared for by its mother, with veterinary staff closely monitoring its development. The zoo said the birth is a significant achievement for conservation efforts aimed at preserving the species, which faces habitat loss and declining numbers in the wild. Paradise Park, known for its diverse collection of exotic and endangered animals, said the addition of the golden monkey underscores the importance of international cooperation in conservation and breeding programs. The zoo plans to continue monitoring the infant and its mother to ensure they thrive in the months ahead. Business news coming up next, but before that, let's take a short breather.
Nepal government has formed 2 high-level committees to conduct a detailed study and review of power purchase agreements, PPAs, and electricity generation permits. The Ministry of Energy, Water Resources and Irrigation made this decision today to effectively implement the 100-point agenda for government reform, approved by the cabinet in its meeting on 27th March. Ministry spokesperson Sandeep Kumar Dev stated that these committees have been formed through a ministerial decision to make the ministry's performance result-oriented, transparent and accountable. A 6-member committee chaired by Joint Secretary Dr. Rajan Bhattrai has been formed to conduct a comprehensive study of the policy, technical and financial aspects of PPAs completed so far by the Nepal Electricity Authority. Similarly, a 5-member committee led by Mohan Shake has been formed to review electricity generation permits. The ministry expects that the report submitted by these committees will provide important guidance for maintaining good governance in the energy sector and further accelerating the development of hydropower projects. Oil price and global stock markets had shown signs of easing on Wednesday as hopes that tensions with Iran might de-escalate reduced pressure on oil prices. However, US President Trump's statement warning that US forces would continue strikes for another 2 or 3 weeks has pushed prices sharply higher again. Brent North Sea crude jumped nearly 8% to over $109 a barrel, while US crude also saw sharp gains as investors reacted to prolonged uncertainty in energy supply. Frankfurt's stock market shed more than 2% and Paris dropped 1% in midday deals Thursday. London dipped just 0.2%, helped by gains of around 3% for the share prices of energy heavyweights BP and Shell. For now, investors remain on edge, bracing for further geopolitical shocks and continued economic uncertainty. Britain's Foreign Minister Betty Cooper is urging the immediate reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, warning the disruption poses a serious risk to global economic stability. Addressing over 40 nations, she condemned Iran's blockade of the critical oil route as reckless. The strait has been largely shut since the US-Israel conflict with Iran began on February 28, heightening concerns over rising energy prices and strained global supply chains.
We've seen Iran hijack an international shipping route to hold the global economy hostage. And in many different countries across the world, it is hitting our global economic security.
China's Alibaba reports strong momentum in AI, even as profits plunge. The company posted a 66% year-on-year drop in quarterly net profit to 15.6 billion yuan, mainly due to a decrease in operating income. Revenue came in at 284.8 billion yuan, missing estimates. Its core e-commerce business remains under pressure from price wars and weak consumption. However, CEO Eddie Wu says AI will be a primary growth engine, with cloud intelligence revenue of 36%. Alibaba is investing heavily in AI, launching its Wukong agent and expanding its Qwen models as it pushes to monetize billions in AI spending.
Now the sports update. The FIFA World Cup 2026 qualifying playoffs have concluded, finalizing the 48 teams set to compete in the tournament hosted by the United States, Canada and Mexico this summer. The 42 teams that had already qualified were placed into their respective groups during the draw held last December. The remaining 6 spots were filled by the winners of the playoff finals. As the host nation, the United States was automatically placed in Group D. The U.S. will kick off their campaign on June 12 against Paraguay at SoFi Stadium in California. It'll then face Australia before concluding the group stage against Turkey, who qualified after defeating Kosovo on Tuesday. Canada is in Group B and will begin the tournament on June 12 at BMO Field in Toronto against Bosnia and Herzegovina. Their final 2 group stage matches will be against Qatar and Switzerland. Mexico has honor of hosting the opening match of the World Cup on June 11 at the Estadio Azteca in Mexico City against South Africa. Co-host Mexico will also face South Korea and the Czech Republic in Group A. Time for weather updates, first from Nepal and then across the world. Well, this brings us to the end of this news bulletin. But before we wrap up, a reminder of our major stories. Nepal's newly elected House of Representatives convenes first mission. Home Minister tables 3 ordinances as lawmakers promise reform. RSP President Lamitani apologizes in the parliament for state discrimination against Dalits, says justice will uphold apology. SEE exam kicks off, center-based grading system introduced, results expected within a month. Tehran warns of broader attacks after Trump says US will hit Iran extremely hard in coming weeks. Artemis 2 crew rockets toward moon. NASA embarks on first manned moon mission in over 50 years. And Trivanami club cruises to comfortable win in the ongoing PM's Cup. Sudapashim secures a narrow win. And that's it for this edition of NTV World News Hour. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. This is me, Smita Gising Tamang, signing off. Thank you for staying with us. Good night.